All right, what's going on, guys? This is obviously Jordan here, talking from the Undergraduate Survival Guide podcast. Today we got my main man, Michael from Cambridge. We're going to be talking about university experience as normal, and I queued up a bunch of questions that I thought would be interesting, but I don't want it to be too formulaic. So we're going to start by talking about obviously you're graduating now. Like I know we talked about it in the past as well about how your university experience was like 4 years.
I think it's best to start with, if we want to tell people about like university and how university works, I think we have to start from origins. So I want to start with the spaceship story, because I feel like the spaceship story kind of ties in perfectly with the kind of life that you expect at university. So this was year what? This was year what? Year 10, year 11?
I think 10 or maybe 11 actually, second year of GCSEs.
And this was Subway. So this was a Subway where I don't know if this was like a regular thing for people. It may have been, it may have not been, but we had regular seats. And when I say we, I mean like, we. It's the
What?
squad. Like the squad changed over time, but like the main squad, where we had a seat at all of these fast food joints. It started off with Sam's, Hounslow West. And it's gone all over the park. It's gone to various KFCs, MacD's. We were there before the food court, so there was no Burger King for us. Dunkin' Donuts but that never happened.
Nah.
And
Yeah, those are close, man.
and oh man, Dunkin' Donuts, man. Do you remember that time you came in like this was like, it must have been like 6 p.m. and you and Zara came in and I had already been there for like 3 hours, like my bitch on chatting some absolute nonsense.
What were you
So
even
anyway,
looking?
sorry, I just wanted to talk about some random nonsense to start. So what about university?
Now, let's talk about flipping dating in school, man. It's nuts. Some of the memories from like I was thinking back the other day how I used to interact with girls, and it's
Yeah,
the maddest thing.
what
Even
do you
now,
mean?
it's
What's bad?
how no, but like now, for example, obviously it's quarantine days, and every now and then it's like, oh, let me
Yep.
chat to some random person. So I like go into Instagram, open a DM, and I start typing something, and I'm like, this is low key like mad salacious. I don't want to. It's such a tight line between like
Wait, what
just
does
being
salacious mean?
like unsolicited sexual demeanor kind of thing.
The hell? From a message? How are you what?
I don't know. Apparently, a winky face is deep, man. Like,
All right, continue.
nah, it's not like because obviously in school we messed around a lot,
Yeah.
and you'd think, well, at least I thought that at some point you just learn automatically, like, okay, this is how you go about doing certain things, but
I think you do.
never
No, I
learned that.
think you don't, I mean, obviously you don't learn it in like a textbook. You don't sit down and have someone tell you this is how you're supposed to do. But I think it's a combination of things that teaches you. It's experiences, it's common sense, and it's, not just your experiences. When I say experiences, I mean your experiences and other people's experiences. Because even if you're not a guy that like knows how to approach people, you're shy or you've just never been able to get girls, you'll know someone that is. And at some point, your brain will have unless you're like some mad, insecure, deep person, your brain will be able to like connect the dots on what these people do and what that make them successful and what you do that makes you unsuccessful in your pursuits. I think. That being said, there's many people our age and many people older that are more useless than we were as, young teenagers. So maybe that's all bullshit. But in terms of learning, I think you do. I don't know. If you're trying to ask, like, I think it happens pretty instantaneously. When I think about like going from school days to now, it doesn't feel like a gradual kind of you learn bits. I feel like it's almost like a flashlight goes on and you can like suddenly see all of the nonsense that you were doing, and you
Mm.
learn in big chunks. And I think that just happens when, I don't know if it's like you hit a certain breaking point, or you hit like just like an epiphany. Something happens in your life and it's just like an epiphany thing. But I don't know, man. How you learn, I think There's so many factors that go into it. And I think it's not like normal academic learning. You're not learning bit by bit. It's almost like
Yeah, yeah.
your brain subconsciously storing all of this information, and at some point a light just switches on and you suddenly realize all of these things.
Mm, that makes sense. I feel like for me, like as an individual, it was different in school because a lot of, I mean, we were friends with Gareth, man. And I feel like a lot of people that we hang out with, or I say I hung out with at the time, couldn't really learn much from in that regard. And then I guess it's different because in school everyone's kind of dumb anyway. Like before
Mhm.
18, you don't really know what you're doing. It's all just jokes.
Yeah.
It's weird now being 21, going on 22 and having to think twice of every message I send because it's not, I don't know how bad it will be.
I don't think you have to. I don't think that's true.
How did you learn? Well,
I
when?
don't,
Probably a better term.
I think, I think I did something that a lot of, I don't know, I feel like I told myself a very common lie that a lot of guys tell themselves because they don't believe that they can compete and they want to give themselves a fighting chance. And that's that girls are looking for this guy that wants to that understands them, that's there for them, that's all of this nonsense. So rather than competing on like being cool or being charismatic or being attractive or any of those things, you're like, okay, I'll let the other guys do that and I'll call those guys, toxic and blah blah blah. And I'll be like the knight in shining armor that girls are, secretly looking for. And I think like there was some point where you just realize, especially if you're mates with girls, I was always mates with girls, so it's like it's shocking that it took me so long to realize, but like they just think the same way as dudes, think exactly the same way as dudes, the same way attraction works, the same way like all of this stuff works in terms of how they want to move to guys, how they talk to each other about guys. Like no one out there is looking for this person that's gonna solve all of their problems and stuff. They don't see themselves as damsels in distress, and there's too many guys out there that fall into the trap of thinking that like you can somehow subvert the rules, like the rules of attraction, by providing this other service of being like a shoulder to cry on or a supportive figure or like the nice dude. And yeah, for me, the biggest learning curve I realized was when that was all just nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. No one is out there looking for that. And if you, I don't know how to even describe how you fall into the trap to begin with, but all I know is that it's a massive, massive lie that so many people tell themselves that I was telling myself for years, and you have to get over that if you wanna be successful. That
Yeah,
being
definitely.
said, I've got to state this right now for the record, yeah. Just in case anyone's sitting here and they're thinking like we're these two guys, like we're nerds. One, we're massive nerds. We are massive nerds. Like neither of us are really attractive or like has many positive characteristics whatsoever. Like and we have way more like horror stories than we do success stories. So anyone out there, I just want to state this out because we're gonna talk. The way we talk makes it seem like we know what we're talking about, but it's only because we spent our whole life hanging out with people that are even more clueless than us. So when it comes to these conversations, we always assume like a position of authority when it comes to talk about this stuff. We know nothing. I think it's always very important to start these conversations now saying that, yeah. Cause I remember, I was playing this I was playing a video of yours about, for your YouTube channel about how to get girls, yeah. To someone from school, I think it was like Jodie or something, and she just bawled
Mm,
out laughing, man.
mad. So this is the self-loathing part of the podcast. Damn, damn. All right, let me
Nah,
just
but
say, the
if
views
you're,
shared by Michael Harvey do not represent those of the Undergraduate Survival Guide podcast.
nah, no, but if you're
Disclaimer.
like if you are a normal dude, yeah, if you ain't Patson, if you ain't, I don't know, who else? Dylan got a lot of tail. If you ain't Ben Conway, if you were just a normal dude, if you're Ashen, we've got advice for you. That's the way I feel like when it comes to this stuff. That's how we should advertise it. We'll take your game up from a 4 to a 6.5.
Now, I mean, it's relative, isn't it? It's always been relative. it's peak. Like as soon
Yeah.
as I hit uni, I met a bunch of guys. I'm like, damn, I really ain't shit, man. Like
No, like
my juice. I
we
thought I had sauce before, but it turns out I'm just like a. I thought it was like a rich barbecue sauce. Turns out I'm just mayonnaise, man.
Yeah. So what we're doing here, what happened basically, is we're in the foundation class, and we're like the best students in the foundation class, and we're willing to help other people in our class with revision and stuff. But let's not get it twisted. The best grade you can get on that foundation paper is a C. That's where we are. We're the best C students out there.
Yep.
If you are on a D, if you need to pass, you're desperate to pass, just not to do anything exceptional, spectacular, anything, too wonderful. You just want to pass. You need to pass. We're the guys.
We're the guys.
We'll, we'll get, we'll get you that pass grade, man. Just so that you're not out there embarrassing yourself. But
Yeah.
yeah, we ain't cool guys. We just wanted to get that out there.
That's an interesting transition actually, because it must have been what last year when I got a speeding ticket, and then I was in the speed awareness course, and the instructor's like, rate yourself between 0 and 10 of how good of a driver you are, and
Mm,
everyone said they're like 8, 9, or 10,
yeah.
and then he asked them, so like, do you think you're good, bad, average, whatever? And they said, oh, we think we're average. So he goes,
Mm,
how can if you think you're average and you also think you're an 8 out of 10, how can 8 possibly be average?
mm,
And it's like, it's nuts. I feel like, especially in year 7, 8, I always thought I was like this 8, 9, 10 type of guy. And in my
mm,
head, average was me. But then you eventually deep that the whole point of average is that it's, 5 is in the middle.
mm.
Realizing that, you're still saying all of that. That was peak, man. When it comes to like, people say for university, you could be the smartest in your class at school, but when you go to uni, you're like, just a big fish in a big
Oh,
pond or whatever.
hell yeah, man. Oh, yeah. Can't be the smartest in school. What was that thing Mr. Gold used to always say? Being a big fish in a small pond? Oh, yeah. I know that. But go on.
Nah, it's just weird. It's just weird, especially
What,
at uni.
to go from that transition from being a top guy to not a top guy?
Yeah, from being a big
Because
fish
it's
in a
all
small pond to
contextual, man. It's contextual. Whether you're talking about the girls or the uni work, it's contextual.
mm,
It depends on what your goals are. Like I said, if you are underachieving if you're out here trying to bag nines and above, and the only girls that like you are sevens. No matter what you think of yourself, if that's what you're trying to do and that's what you can do, you're underachieving. Because it's all contextual. Whether you're overachieving, underachieving, or performing how you think you should be performing, it's based on whatever context you set yourself. Same thing
mm,
with work. If you're working at a certain level and you're the big fish in school, it's only because the context, the environment is the 100 or so kids that you're surrounded by. You then go to university, it's a completely different environment. Not just in terms of who's around you, but in terms of like the skills that you need to be successful. Because now it's no longer about in school exams, memory plays such a big factor that becomes, I don't know about all of the subjects, but I know for STEM subjects at university, memory just, the advantage of having a really good memory just kind of diminishes because the questions become a lot more problem solving and a lot less rote learning. So
yeah, yeah.
the environment completely changes. So you're going to have some people that, they go to university and they discover something about themselves, really turn it on. I had a girl, one of the engineers on my course. I was her supervision partner in second year. There was a lesson where we had to differentiate, we were just going through some working, and for one part of the working, you had to differentiate, something like y squared. And it took us 25 minutes to explain to her
Mad.
how to differentiate, y squared with respect to y. And it's secondary school stuff. And
Mm,
this is Cambridge engineering. And she's struggling, yeah. She got a 2-2 that year. The next year, she was 4 marks off of first. Cause she learned that the skill that she could bring to the table is this ridiculous work ethic that like pretty much blew everyone else out of the water. She worked like it was a job, like a 9 to 5 thing, like every
mad.
day, Monday, to Friday, Monday, to Saturday. And that's what I mean about context. In school, She's getting mocked for not being able to differentiate stuff. She's getting A's when other people are getting A stars.
Yeah, yeah,
Fast
yeah.
forward years, the context, like she doesn't change, but the context changes, and suddenly everything's different. Same thing with girls as well.
Mm.
If the context changes, then everything changes. Suddenly you're overperforming when you were underperforming, or vice versa. It's all contextual.
Yeah, because you got to adapt to your playing field, isn't it? Like, it's funny actually. You're talking about like the girl in Cambridge. Do you feel like you stand out at all? I mean, obviously as a black student, it's always like you're always gonna stand out in that regard in terms of race, but in terms of like intelligence or like what you do on a day to day.
You mean like work wise?
No, but like I mean, in school we were always like that group. Do you kind of have that? Is that like a thing you continued into uni, or is it just like as you?
Um, yeah and no. Yeah and no. One thing about with me and uni, I never really, until like a month before the coronavirus hit, I never really got into the university activities in terms of like, we do a lot of like black tie dinners. I've still never been to a May ball, which is like
Mad.
the biggest event of like the calendar. Um, a lot of that kind of stuff. Like I've been to less than five formals. I've never really been big on the swaps or any of those, the pub crawls or any of those kind of social things. I basically did what I did in school. I found a little tight knit circle of, delinquents and, troublemakers and just horrible, horrific people. And we just did dumb shit for years until like the majority of us graduated. That's like, that's what I'd say I spent uni doing.
Sounds like the
In
way to
terms of
go.
like, yeah, but in terms of like work wise, I'd also say that I was very late to develop kind of like a work ethic in terms of like a work level maturity. And I'm someone that I feel like at university, you discover whether you're passionate about the course or you're passionate about your paper, because it's gonna be one or the other. It's like the law of sunk cost. By the time you get to second or third year, you have sacrificed so much to these exams that you start to think about what you're going to get out of it. So you either still love your subject and you're going to be like that, or you subscribe to the school of, okay, now I'm going to get my compensation. And I had a guy in my year who got a 2-2 in chemical engineering. He got an internship at a bank, offered him
Mm.
something like 50K unconditional offer, something like that. Just because he was so good on the internship. They didn't care about his grades. They didn't care about anything. I remember when I found that out and I discovered that, yeah, I was no longer going to be this guy that was just passionate about this subject, because I came in loving F1 and I was just like, this is all I want to do. This is all I'm going to do. I don't care if F1 people don't really get paid that much. I don't care if the hours are long. But when I heard that the guy who was at the bottom of the class well, near the bottom of the class was going to become the biggest baller in our year,
Yeah, yeah.
that definitely changed my approach in terms of like the kind of student I was playing. I was now no longer being like the going to all of the clubs and trying to like get my knowledge base up. It became very much more like tactical learning after that. In terms of like social places, I feel like I've been a weird kind of black figure in Cambridge as well. I've been a very weird black figure. I'll explain what I mean, yeah, because um, when I came in my college, there was this guy. He was 2 years above me, and he was like the guy. He was like the big name. And
Mm.
I remember my first night out. It was for freshers. He found me out of the club, came around me and was like, "Yo, dude, it's like the most calm, like most just like nicest person that you'll ever meet, vibesiest person that you'll ever meet." Yeah,
Mad.
and that was like what our college had. I don't do none of that nonsense, man. I don't even associate that much with like ACS, because I enjoy having naps and watching TV too much. Like, I don't really even do that much ACS nonsense. But the people that know me, and those are going to be people around college or people that have seen me about, for some reason I stick in their head. Like, I get asked about in place. I get asked about by people who I don't even remember meeting, in the sense that, because I don't think there's really many, there's this black excellence culture,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
especially in a place like Cambridge where there's not that many black people. There's this pressure to be like to live up to this image of black excellence, man, and it's fake. And I think that there's the people that know me or the people that remember me, the reason why they remember me is because every time I've ever been out, the few times that I am out, they remember that I've done some real stuff. And I feel like that if you're talking about a black figure in Cambridge, that's probably one thing I can say I'm proud of. I'm the one that like showing people that you don't have to come in and be you don't have to
Like,
come
excellent.
if you don't want to, you don't have to come and adapt to this like other lifestyle. You don't have to start if you don't feel comfortable with, dressing up in these suits and going out for these dinners, you'd rather just go and get KFC with your boys. You can
Mm,
do that. You don't have to feel excluded from this whole culture of what's going on, because even ACS does that to a little bit of a degree because of the black excellence culture. You it's not this harmonious kind of like club where everyone just gets along with everybody. I think part of that as well is because you're trying to force a connection with people where you don't really have that much connection. If I'm part of like say Hong Kong society, a lot of people in my uni Hong Kong society were born and raised in Hong Kong. So they come to form this club so that they can share these things together. If I go to ACS, I was born in Chichester and both my parents are from Trinidad. So what do I have in common from someone that went to private school in Nigeria and then went to Cambridge? The only thing we have in common is that we're both black.
mm.
Culturally, we have nothing in common. Like, I've heard too many jokes about jollof rice that I can't contribute in. I've never had it. I'm not gonna lie, I've never had it. And that's what I mean about the black excellence. I feel like it's because there's nothing in common. There people try and create this black persona that's
Mm,
fake. Because I know I'm not the only one that's never had jollof rice in that crowd. But you're still gonna try and laugh along with the jokes, and you're still gonna try and sell yourself like that so that you can feel part of this community. And I think what I did in my university, I let a lot of these guys know you can be part of that community, but and be you at the same time. You don't have to fall under this mold of what educated black person looks like. An educated
yeah,
black
yeah.
person looks like whatever you want it to look like. So that's one thing I did at uni.
Mm, that's
But yeah,
true.
man, it's we don't have a lot of niggas. We really don't.
Yeah, you have like what, six, I think, or in your college at least.
Oh, in my college we have bare. We have eight. I think we have eight in the first year now.
Mm, that's good.
First
That's
year.
a good sign,
In
I
my
guess.
year we had like four or five.
It's funny,
I
like
don't know.
I was talking to my friend yesterday, Doobie, on the podcast, and he
Yeah.
was saying we were talking a bit about like leadership in the black community and whether you're kind of allowed to do that, like if you're allowed to not be a leader, I should say. And obviously he was ACS president in Bristol in my second year,
Mm.
and it's like I kind of touched on it with him as well, but it's like the image of of a black person is very singular. Like when you think of like an
Mm.
excellent black person, it's always like
No,
this
you say leader, yeah.
rapper,
You say
athlete.
leader of black people. Who are you being a leader to? Do you get what I mean? Think about the people in our school. Think about the people that were always getting picked on, always in. If you ever went into our school and you ever went to a heads detention, any year group, it wasn't a coincidence that even though the minority of the year was black, the majority of the people in detention were black. So when
Yep.
you're saying leader, who are you being a leader to? Because those are the ones that need leadership. Let's not pretend like black people out here are the ones that make it are these really clever people, and the ones that don't make it just aren't that clever. Or then that's not what it is. You have people that are coming from very difficult households that aren't motivated because even teachers don't believe in them.
Mm.
And for what? They don't really, from my experience, these kids that are always in these detentions, they don't do anything that the other kids don't do. It's just in a culture that the teachers don't like. Getting told off for like sucking your teeth and shit like that. So these are the kids. They're not stupid. They just don't see any reason to work because no one believes in them and no one's really giving them a chance. So where are they going to get this confidence from that they can go and do anything in the world as long as they study? Like, if they had that belief. You see it in sports all the time. You can take someone that is completely unmotivated, by life, completely given up on the system, yeah, and they'll see a hero, whether it be Anthony Joshua, whether it be Raheem Sterling, and that's how you get the next Anthony Joshua and the next Raheem Sterling. The work ethic is there if there's something to inspire it, if there's something to to kind of nurture it. And the great thing about sports is that it's so accessible. You don't need to be a rich person to watch TV, to watch a Anthony Joshua fight, or to watch Man City play, or to watch England play football.
Yeah, yeah,
I don't see educational black leaders, because you talk about these guys and what are they doing to make these London kids, or these kids from these backgrounds where they're always getting in trouble, where they're getting sent home for having their hair too short. How are you getting these guys to believe in the school system? Because they don't. I have, like, in our school, I haven't heard anything from these universities doing anything. Do you get what I mean? So you talk about leadership, but leadership to who? Because if the main group of people that you're trying to inspire aren't even listening to your message, then what are you talking about?
mm, that's true.
That's why I said all these heads at ACS, because it was the same situation with mine. I don't know too much details about the guy, but I know that it's just a club, and we could be doing so much more. We could be doing, like, um we could just be doing a lot more to outreach to the people that really need to hear the message that they could be. And this is what I mean about why I was saying I try and keep it real when I'm in university, because the whole message that we should be trying to promote is that you can do this if you want to, but you, as in you as a person, the same you that cracks jokes in the back of the class, the same you that likes to get, a 1.5 on top and a fade on the side, because, I don't know, you might be linking a thing on the weekend. Do you get what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
You don't have to suddenly sell out who you are because you're a black person in order to be successful. And no one's really, I don't see that message on, like, on the mainstream. I don't see, and if it is out there, I definitely don't see it getting heard by the kids that need to hear that message.
It's true. And I feel like of the quote unquote leaders in the black community, you have these companies or organizations, I guess, like SEOs and the Rares. They're all very much like, oh, come and be a lawyer, come and be a banker. There's never really, come and be a barbershop guy, or like they always try and push you down this one specific stream of their image of success. And even those, industries are very whitewashed, they're very much led by how society deems success to be. And I feel like
Don't get me wrong. These
it's a
companies
tight line to walk.
these companies do fantastic work. You talk about Rare, they do fantastic work.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
what they do
absolutely.
is they take people who are nearly there, in terms of who are they're on the cusp of being able to. Most people that are in Rare, you have to apply to get into Rare. So these
Yeah, you got to
people
be
are
practiced from
already
day one, innit?
they've already shown evidence that they are ambitious, self-motivated, hard-working people. The large
Mm,
majority of these people. Otherwise, they wouldn't get to Rare in the first place. So they're doing great work in that respect, but it's still work that's being done on this small minority of people that have already kind of almost figured things out.
yeah.
But there's so much untapped talent out there. Let me tell you a story about my friend, a mathematician, yeah, at at my college. He's regularly in trouble. He can't remember what school he went to, but he comes from East, and him and his whole family, like his older brothers, all running next level of gangs and shit. And he's been
Mm,
doing that his entire life, and he's never been motivated to study. He got a B at GCSE in maths, and
damn.
his teacher told him not to do maths at A level because he wouldn't get a better grade. And for some reason, I don't know what happened. I don't know what this teacher did to him, but it triggered something in his brain to make him start doing nothing but maths. He did the
Mm,
Olympiad next year. He was top 10 in the country. Like, he got invited to the Trinity Maths camp. Obviously, he got his A star, and then he got his offer to go do maths at
that's a
Cambridge.
Cambridge. Jeez.
But I'm saying, if no one ever, this happened almost by accident, that a teacher sparked in him an anger by saying that you can't do this. If
Mm,
that never happened, he would still be rolling in gang, because no one ever reached out to him to try and actually unlock that talent. And those are the kind of people that aren't being reached, especially black people. They are just not being reached. By the time they get to 16, 17 years old, it's very hard to undo that kind of mistrust of the system and that idea that, like, school is just pointless. And
yeah, yeah.
those are the key kids that are getting missed out. So Rare and them lot are doing a lot of good work, but I don't see enough work from any kind of organization that's actually going into these schools at these young ages and really trying to inspire these kids that don't have anyone to back them. Like, they're not in a situation where anyone's giving them any confidence or any belief that they can do anything. So they're just kind of happily going under the bar, and they don't really understand the implications of what they're doing either. They're all like, fuck school, and like, they're not really looking at the future. They don't see what they can do. You remember, like, St. Mark's? I
Mm.
remember talking to one of my old teachers about this. You're in a school that doesn't even have a patch of grass. It doesn't have a patch of grass on the whole school. We're
True.
surrounded by estates in our
Mm.
school. We don't really go on that many school trips. You're selling this life. In terms of saying you can get A stars, you go to university, you're selling this lifestyle. We don't even know what it is. Like, it's not until we went to Singapore, that I really understood the benefit of having gone to such a good university so that you can actually get jobs and stuff like that. No one tells you that when you're young. I'm lucky, like, we're lucky that we were nerds. Like, we kind of enjoyed the subject and we were kind of good at it. Like, I loved maths. I loved
Mm.
science. So we were lucky in that respect that you didn't really need to motivate because we just liked it, in the same way that someone that likes football is going to play football. You're not really going to have to tell them to practice. They're just going to kick ball whenever they can. So that's the only reason why we were able to do pretty well, is because we had this natural liking for the subject. But in terms of motivation, you're trying to tell these kids to work hard. One end, you're giving them stick for having haircuts. They don't know, like, why should they listen? Why should they listen to teachers? Why should they listen to school? Why should they adhere to the rules? No one's telling them why. No one's telling them that it's for their benefit. So they don't really understand it until it's too late.
Yeah, that's true as well. Because it's funny, like, you see it a lot as well in life, but you're never really taught the why in general. It's always like, oh, get a job, but you don't really realize that, oh, you need money to buy things. I mean, some things come more intuitively, like, of course, money, but
Mm.
there's a real lack of, I want to say, teaching when it comes to the general understanding, especially from the older generation, because they kind of interpret, like, we as teens are, we're treated like teens, we're expected to act like adults, and they kind of
Mm.
miss that whole, like, bridging the gap between being 14, 15, 16, and then eventually being an adult. And it's nuts. Like, even us, you were talking about how we enjoy maths. It's kind of peak for those kids who maybe enjoy media, for example. Like, there's just so much less they can do purely because they like different things, but that's not necessarily a way to determine how clever they are or how likely they are to be successful.
Mm.
It's weird. It is weird.
What you, what you need, what you need is not about liking the right things so that you could go on and make a lot of money. You'll be successful in whatever you
It's the
do as long
leadership.
as you have the right sort of attitude
Mm.
towards it. And I feel like, especially with minority students in these schools, just the attitude that you get is negative, because all you get is people hounding you all of the time. That's how I feel, in the sense of, why is it that these kids are always the kids that end up in detention? It's not because black kids are just worse. That's just can't be true. That's just not true. So why
Yeah,
is it that these kids always end up in the detentions? They're just constantly hounded on
mm.
for, joking around. And it's a vicious cycle. Because they're hounded on, they rebel and they act out against every kind of, form of punishment, to the point where they don't even care anymore. So it's just this cycle where they don't ca- they don't give a shit about getting in trouble, because they don't really care about school. So they do dumb shit. They get in trouble. They get in, the school gives them trouble. That pisses them off. So they get in more trouble. The school gives them more detention, and it's just this stupid cycle, man. Because rather than giving them this negative attitude that, there's no point in doing anything because people are just going to hound you regardless, they should be fostering this attitude of, you can really do, if you work hard at something, you can achieve fantastic results. And I go back again to sport, because I feel like that's why so many young kids find it so easy to get into sport. Imagine how you must feel. You're just like, you're not really doing anything. There's a lot of people out there, especially come from backgrounds worse than ours, where their life's really moving in like circles, vicious circles. Either you're
Mm.
rolling in these county, you're doing involved in this county lines business, or you're coming from these households where you can't really be spending a lot of time at home, so you've got to be somewhere.
Yeah.
And imagine the feeling when you're coming out of that life and you go to your first boxing gym and you see the results of your hard work. Because even if you don't like your coaches, whatever that is, if you put in work, if you work hard at boxing for, let's say, a month, you'll see yourself get better at boxing and you'll see yourself get stronger. You can see the rewards of your work.
Mm.
In school, you get a grade. Do you get what I mean? And until someone no one really explains to you what that grade is or what it means. No one ever puts it in context. It's just a grade. So why care? You don't see there's no reason to listen or to adhere to the rules or to do anything. Like I said, your reward for good behavior is more school, which a lot of these kids don't like because
Mm.
they don't like they don't respect these teachers that constantly hound on them, and for good reason. And, a grade. And a grade to your 14-year-old brain just doesn't mean anything whatsoever. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
there's no, how are you supposed to foster a good work ethic when your work ethic isn't rewarded?
Mm. I think it's nuts as well because like when you look at it in terms of the big picture, like your grade is it's subjective really. Especially, I mean, for maths, of course, like it's either right or wrong. But let's say English. I remember writing a story. It must have been like year 9, and
Man, you
obviously it
just
was.
sucked it before you even get started. You just sucked it away, man. Like, like, just don't get it. I know you have these delusions of grandeur, but no. Whatever story that you're about to tell, I think the main conclusion of it is that you sucked at writing stories.
Never, man. I got an A in the end.
Okay,
I think
fair.
mine was a lot more specific to obviously my experience as an individual. I remember my teacher was saying stuff like, you're not using enough metaphors, not using enough this and that and that. But when you like a lot of my not motivation, I guess my interest in terms of like the English language or being creative comes from music.
Mhm.
Most listen to rap, R&B, thinking about like double entendre and things like that from different music artists. I don't really care about Shakespeare. I don't really find poems relevant to my life or the way I do things. And I feel like I mean, it's a mad generalization to say that black people are a lot more interested in rap compared to white people. It's kind of wild to say, but even statistically looking at it, the way schools are taught is very much taught for one demographic. And then
You
I feel
think?
like, yeah,
Why do
definitely,
you say that?
because it's all. I mean, like you get your GCSEs, that's kind of getting you into A levels, which kind of gets you into uni then onwards. But that lifestyle, that career path, has very much been set by like this the way I guess like you know how networking's become such a big important thing throughout I guess later parts in life. You don't really
Yeah.
have access to that network, to that you know that way of doing things unless you come from a certain background.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
I guess I'm kind of blurring the
What
lines
is?
a bit
But
between classes.
that's more about classes than it is about demographic. When you're talking about demographic, you're talking about races and faiths and stuff. So
Yeah, but
how is school catered to a single demographic?
because at least in my opinion, there's a strong correlation between class and race, especially when it comes to things like network. Like a lot of our parents, well, I guess it's different for me, but especially your parents, they weren't born here, so they don't really have the extensive network of people over the years that can support you, or they haven't really got the same. Like I
Yeah, but
doubt your
that's
parents would have learned about Shakespeare in their schools, and it's those
yeah,
sorts
but
of
that's
things that you can't really get that when you go home.
so you're saying the fact that schools teach like what British things?
No, it's not about what they teach per se, but it's the way, at least in my opinion, the way it's taught to you is very much specific for certain demographics. If that
Well,
kind
be
of makes
specific.
sense.
What do you mean?
How do I word this? I guess yeah. Let's go with, like the Shakespeare example, for example,
Yeah.
and like the things that are taught in schools. Like schools kind of assume that, I mean, with homework, a lot of the work you're going to do is independent. Obviously not as much as university, but you are supposed to do stuff at home.
Hmm.
And at least in my experience, a lot of ethnic students, they don't really have like people whose parents weren't born here, for example, or didn't go through the British schooling system. It's almost impossible for them to go and teach their kids things that they don't even know about themselves. Whereas if you're
Yeah.
white and you have your whole background heritage in this country, or even if you're colored and your parents are born here as well, you kind of have a big advantage there because you can get support from at home.
Nah, man. The stats say differently. Like the stats on um like the average level of achievement of school kids and people getting into university. Because I've seen this argument before. I can't remember where I saw it, but there was this woman online. She got like trashed on the internet, social media, all this because she went on the
Mm.
news and started. She went on this whole thing about how British society is inherently racist and it's reflected in the education system. and the
Okay.
guy that was interviewing her just gave her back these stats that was like the the base basically the most discriminated against when it comes to education, like secondary school education and sixth form education, the most discriminated against group of people are actually white males.
Mad. In what regard though?
Oh, I can't remember the specific thing, man. I'm not the guy. But you can look it up for yourself. I'll send you I'll send you a link sometime if I ever find it. But
Yeah, I'll take a look
like,
afterwards.
but there's like you could look it up and like I get what you're
Hmm.
trying to say, but
It's interesting though.
I think it's a I think it's a feeling that's not backed up in evidence.
Yeah, yeah. No, I understand that. I guess I gotta look into it a bit more. But I do
Mm,
think though, like how you're talking about, being punished for like a lot of the black students are on detention and stuff like that. I think it's
yeah,
nuts how you're not really rewarded in school other than by, of course, grades in the end. But between like September and May, you don't really get any reward for being a good student other than like nothing. But you get punished if you misbehave. It's interesting. Like a lot of people I speak to, especially like black kids, a lot of our motivations have come from a bad place where you like don't want to be a certain thing, or similar to your story with your friend, the maths guy. You have that one person who says you can never do it, and you kind of overcome that challenge. Whereas a lot of my
yeah,
white friends are like, oh, I've always been supported and nurtured from day one. You're always kind of put on that pedestal to, you're given the resources to eventually get there. I think
yeah,
it's an
yeah.
interesting dynamic. I feel like, I mean, I can't prove it on a general scale, of course, but in my experience, it's always like, we're always running away from something, whereas other kids are always running towards something.
I don't know. I'm just trying to think back to people in our year now. I'm trying to
Mm.
think back to people that I know, and I think it's hard to describe. It's like it was so easy to get in trouble for something that you thought was just a funny thing to do. And I feel
Mm.
like I don't know, I think like in our year with the black kids just like they were just a bit more disruptive is not the right word. Like it was school was something that was social first and academic second. They didn't have the fear. I feel like there were
Mm.
kids. I still remember that kid who was in year 9 when he got his first detention and saw him crying outside the head teacher's office. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I remember that. I remember that.
If you come from a background where you have fears about like someone jumping you or not being able to pay a bill
Mm.
or like being in debt or like your parents not working or your parents fighting or like some real stuff going on, yeah.
Mm.
What how are you gonna have any response to someone saying hand this in or you're gonna have to spend an hour after school or worst things worst, I'll call your parents. These
Yeah,
people just
yeah,
don't
yeah.
care. You can't, that's not gonna work on someone that has real danger in their life. That's not going to
Mm.
motivate at all. It's not going to elicit any reaction from them whatsoever because there's no fear. Whereas from another person, like I said, from these other people, calling someone's parents might mean that their Xbox and their PS4 and everything, all their toys get taken away for a while. And
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
like the
yeah.
worst thing in
What
the world.
toys?
But, yeah, you really don't want to get detention. Like I said, yeah, basically, you're in a situation where these kids don't have toys that you can take away. So
Mm.
you're threatening them with nothing. They have real fears. So rather than threatening them, I remember we had our form tutor, Mr. Longhay. He just loves to shout at people.
Yep. Especially
Yeah,
me.
he didn't shout at me. He didn't shout at me, and the one time I asked him about it, he was just like, "Cause it's just not gonna work. You're just not gonna listen. If I just shout, you don't have that. Like he didn't say you don't have the fear, but he was just like, if I shout at you, you're not gonna listen, and you're like reasonable enough that I can have a conversation with you. So I'm just
Mm.
gonna, if you do something wrong, I'm just gonna tell you what you did wrong. Like you're
Yeah.
smart enough to figure it out. You don't need to be shouted at. And it's the same thing. What is the point of shouting at these kids? And there's not. That was our teacher he was a very very good teacher. Not many teachers would be willing to put in that effort to go the extra mile to actually reach these kids. That's what I'm saying. The very
Mm.
easy slapdash thing to do, kid misbehaves, give him a detention, then it's someone else's problem.
True.
You know, teacher, you have to
Mm.
think about it. On one hand, a teacher's job is to nurture these kids, teach them. On the other hand, a job is something where you're employed from 9 to
Yeah, they just
4
guys
p.
get paid, innit?
9 a.m. to 4 p.m. And that is what it is. The teachers that come in, they have a presentation on a PowerPoint. They flick through the slides. They tell people to read from the book. It gets
Yeah,
to
and they go
4
home.
p.m. and they go home. So
Mm.
those teachers don't really give a toss about actually reaching these kids. So all you end up doing is you end up shouting at these kids that don't fear you because they have real danger going on, and they don't respect you because you've never reached out to try and gain their respect. So you're basically just shouting hot air. And that's what happens. You have this system where kids become totally unresponsive. And I think the reason why that is, the reason why you said might have a demographic where they respond really well to being well nurtured and stuff like that, and the other ones don't, is because I feel like the better off people, they have that fear of school, of things going wrong in school.
Mm.
Whereas for someone else, there might be so many other things that are going wrong that school going wrong is really the least of your worries. So you just don't really care. You see school as an outlet where you come and see your friends and you try and have a good time. You
Exactly.
know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's probably an explanation for why that happens. But then again, like I said, just to stress, we are two idiots. 95% of what we say comes from absolutely no context whatsoever. If you hear what we
Yep.
say about girls, it will take two people to just come in and explain it will take them 2 minutes to break down all of our arguments and like chatting shit. Probably same with this education stuff as well. You might just have like a year 8 black kid out there who could give you like the full lockdown on what's going on with the education,
In like
and we're all
5
just
minutes.
chatting nonsense.
I
Like I
gotta get a
said, we're not here
disclaimer
to
for this
we're not
podcast,
here
man.
to educate you to an excellent standard. Like we will get you to a C. In terms of what's going on in the world, we'll get you to a C, maybe a C plus if you revise hard, but we'll get you to a C plus knowledge of what's going on.
the, the views shared by Michael Harvey are not. Man, now I feel like, I mean, as much as I enjoy going on about school for 10 hours, I was gonna say, like, do you not feel like you and yourself, like, being someone who stayed true to yourself and went through uni, like Cambridge, one of the best unis in the country, like, do you not feel some sort of responsibility then to go and mentor the next generation?
I feel like responsibility is the wrong word.
Well, at least like an influence, I guess.
I
Because then you
do.
could argue like knowing what we know, given a disclaimer, of course, it's kind of, I guess, yeah, responsibility is not the right word, but you kind of owe something, surely.
I do. I do try. And I feel like it is important, especially I feel like, and this is just me and my views, like, this is definitely the area where you should give your disclaimer. But, my personal view is that in this country, there is a lack of black community in the
Oh
sense of
yeah. Hmm.
community being like, like looking out for one another normally happens from a situation where you're all kind of living together,
Yeah,
living in
yeah,
the same area, similar area. And you know what I was saying about ACS? You know how I was saying I have nothing in common being a British born person with Trinidadian parents? I have nothing in common with someone who was born in Nigeria, raised in Nigeria, and came over to the UK at a later date.
yep.
So naturally, because one, there's not that many black people in this country, and two, because the backgrounds of all of these black people are so diverse, there is such
Mm.
a lack of community. And the reason why I think helping out is it should be a good thing is because someone needs to build that community at some point.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Even
No, I
on the
completely
world
agree.
stage, you can see that like every kind of ethnic group has a country where they really kind of like believed in themselves and got together and had this kind of collective view of a community, raising the community rather than the selfish view of like a few people selling out everyone else to try and get power. If you look
Mm.
at what's happened, the reason why China is what it is instead of being this poor country with a very rich, government is because of that collective community spirit that this is a nation that we're trying to raise. Do you get what I mean? It's not just, no, like, I'm not saying that there's no corruption, but I'm saying that there's this general view that we want to all help each other. We want to build ourselves up. And in the black community in the UK, we don't really have that. We don't really have this system. This is why Rare is such a fantastic thing, because Rare is really the only example of that kind of network where it's like, I
Yeah, we've all
came
got a
through
common
this,
purpose in it.
and I'm gonna look out for you. And it's
Mm,
good, but like I said, it's limited to the people that are already kind of on their way themselves. Then there needs people in my position should definitely be putting in work to try and reach out to these people. In terms of how best to do it, I have no idea. But it's definitely
mm.
something that everyone should be putting a conscious effort into if one day you want to see a community, in this country. Because there's not one at the moment, and there won't be one unless someone builds it from scratch.
Yeah, definitely. I would say like, the best way to reach out to all those people in a authentic way has got to be a podcast, right? But it's funny, I was
This
having a similar chat.
sell out bastard, useless guy.
Yeah, my credit card details are in the description below. But I was having a similar chat the other day with someone, and I think, at least in my experience, the biggest disadvantage we have as a black community is lack of language. In terms
Mm,
of like, when I see like my Asian friends, for example, they go to the kebab shop or whatever, they talk to the guy who runs it, and they all speak Punjabi together. Or, the
mm,
Turkish guys speak to boss man in a kebab shop or whatever. And obviously I'm kind of stereotyping, but generally speaking, we have they have that connection. You kind of know your people just by talking to them. I
mm.
feel like in the black community, like, I think one sticking point is people always assume blacks are all the same. Like, African and Caribbean, you see it a lot on ACS. All my Nigerian and Ghanaian friends, it's like, I don't know anything about what they're talking about. As a Caribbean, as someone who identifies as Caribbean, I don't understand half of the stuff that they talk about in the African households and stuff, but I'm still
Mm.
expected to be an active member of the same community of them. Which in some capacity I don't really mind, because obviously we do have a lot in common, but there are so many different facets of, Jamaican black people, Nigerian, Ghanaian, that it's hard to have that one big overarching community. It's like saying all Asian to be together. Like, that's not the case. You have, Chinese Orientals, you have Indians, Pakistanis and stuff. It's
Mm.
nuts how, like, I do think it's tight, but then I agree with you how we don't really have that sense of community. Like, I feel bad sometimes, walking down the streets. Like, I'll see this one other black guy in
Can we
Bristol
talk
and I
about
feel
a
like
real
I should
issue?
say hi.
We talk about
Huh?
a real issue. A real issue. Speaking of the lack of community, this directly ties in. I was speaking to my barber about this the other day. What is with the things in this country? Like I said, with this black excellence thing, you guys need to be a lot more nasty. I don't know. I'm just very tired of the black excellence. Very tired of it.
In
I'm tired
terms
of
of like external pressure or what?
No, I'm just tired of this image. I'm just tired of being this fake image of people going around, and it's almost like this judgmental thing. It separates people. So you either have this black excellence image, or you have this road image, and like, do you know,
Mm.
I go Trinidad, yeah. Nice thing about Trinidad, I have a cousin, yeah. I have two cousins. One of them's just like your traditional, cool, smart, like, Trinidad John. He's just this superhero kind of character. Like, everybody loves him. But I have
Yeah.
another one called Jerome. This
Mm.
guy spends hours. When I last saw him years ago, all he would do, his screensaver was something of Naruto. All he would do is watch anime all day. Yeah.
Mm.
But he was still relatable. He would still go out with his brother. He would go out with me and he'd go out with the boys. He still did his thing. He still had girls and things. He would still go out. He was still a normal guy. But he wasn't this image. Do you get what I mean? He was a
Yeah, yeah.
nerd. He didn't just agree with everything everyone said. If we were he's the kind of person where if he was in a circle and 10 people were saying about how much they loved power, he would say, I've never seen it. Do you get what I mean? But
Mm.
because, because he doesn't have to adhere to an image. When you're in a country where the majority of people are black, you have the freedom to kind of have your own personality because your community is the entire country. So you don't have to try very hard to reach out to people like you and to try and make these friends. I guess there's more people, so there's less of a competitive environment. With this black excellence nonsense, man, there is just too much pressure. There is too much, like, pressure on looking a certain way and behaving a certain way, man. I'm tired of seeing these people. and you know who you are. I'm tired of seeing these people with like, they'll be having like, oh, what are these brands? Give me some good brands. Like a Birkin, like like Off-White, like all this stuff. They'll
Supreme.
have all of these garms, yeah. But it's like, I know where you live. Why are you trying to live this? Do you know what I mean? You come from
Yeah,
Hounslow
yeah, yeah. I know what you mean.
and you're trying to live this life. You know what it is? It's you're either going for the black excellence or you're going to live like this trap culture, and there's just no in the middle, and it just annoys me because there's not enough individualism out there.
Mm.
It means everyone just behaves. You have like two personality types out there, and it's frustrating. For me, I feel like I've never had that pressure because I was like the ADHD kid from since like day. And I feel
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that presides over any race in terms of, because it's like a smaller group of people. So if you're, yeah, having ADHD and being black, I'm ADHD first and black second. So
Mm.
I kind of had the freedom to be able to do my own thing because black people find me weird anyway. So like I can't really cater to that group. But you can see it. I remember I was in a meeting once, it was an ACS thing, they were talking about power, and like everyone asked what their favorite show was. Everyone said Power. I said Tom and Jerry, and they looked at me like I was nuts. I mean, you get a group of 15 white people, yeah, put them in a room and ask them what their favorite show is. Do you think all 15 of them are going to say the same thing?
No
15
chance, man.
random white people, and they all say the same thing. Are you crazy? Some of them are going to say Peep Show. Some of them are going to say like, I don't know. That's pretty much it. Actually, they'd all agree on Peep Show. Okay, so that point doesn't. Okay, forget that point. No, but the point is, I don't like I don't like this set in stone culture that you're either road or you're adhering to this black excellence lifestyle. Like, I actually like physically try my hardest to try and do the opposite of what both those types of people would do. Just not even like just to make a point that you can, that like you can be a person, you can be a successful person, you can go Cambridge, you can do all this stuff, and you don't have to look like this to be able to do it. You can actually be retarded as hell and still do it. It doesn't make a difference. These aren't prerequisites. You don't have to dress up like this. You can if you want to, but it's not a prerequisite to say your success or your social circle or anything like that. I hang out with all these types of people from all types of cultures, all types of race, all types of demographics. You know, I'll go out, I'll meet you at a club in pajamas, like,
Mm.
because you can. You
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
have to be in the circle. You don't have to do it if you don't want to do it. And there's not enough of that individualism in the black community in this country anyway. You
Mm.
definitely see it. You definitely see it, I think, in large black communities. When I was talking to my barber, he went to university in Miami. He always talks about the life out there and how different it is to out here. And I've definitely seen it in Trinidad. It is so different in Trinidad.
Mm.
But you know, whatever, it is what it is.
I guess it's a tight line because I feel like people conflate, having community and having individualism within that. It's always like to be, black and excellent, you have to be specifically black and excellent in these particular things. And you kind of
Anyway,
conflate the whole argument that you can be an individual and still be excellent. Or even just
yeah,
like black. It's not, I don't understand the whole excellent thing. Like why you gotta be great all the time?
it's it's like an ingrained negative attitude of
Mm.
yourself. And it's like black excellence is basically like proving everyone wrong. I think it's like proving that black people can do all of this stuff and black people are, are so great. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't think that's the way to do it. I don't think if you want to prove to people that in terms of this black excellence movement, if you're trying to prove to people that you belong to be in the same social circles as all of these other people, you should do what they do. And do you know what they do? Whatever the hell they want to do. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
That's what, if you want to talk about real excellence or what real power is, it's the ability to, be a lawyer, be a doctor, be all of these things and still behave however you want to behave. It's not a choice of like, you don't see that in the white community. It's like, well, if you're a lawyer, you have to dress a certain way. You got like these tatted up. You could have a lecturer who's got face tats, who's white. They'll get away with it.
Yeah,
Trust
yeah,
me,
yeah.
they'll. But anyway, we
It's
should
like,
really, if we should really be talking, I can't believe we haven't spent more time talking about how people are gonna deal with being in their room for a year. I feel like is that not like on your mind? Do you not think about what are you gonna do? Because you must have had plans before this happened. I remember I had plans. I was gonna take this chick. I was gonna take this chick to the Lake District. I had plans. I found the Airbnb. It was gonna be sweet. That was gonna be the summer. That was gonna be the start of summer. I had plans for the Easter holidays. My exams ended in April, end of April, and I was gonna go to Trinidad in August. I've definitely been thinking for a while now. How am I gonna deal with being the very real possibility of being in my room for the entire summer?
yeah, that's mad. I
And
can't
the
lie.
responsibility as well. Even if you had the opportunity to go out, would you? I went out to play basketball the other day. Everyone that came out was so guilty about the fact that they were coming out, and they basically all promised, including myself, not to come out again for like the significant future.
Yeah, you're breaking lockdown rules, man.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like my main grievance, I guess, with having to be locked down is that I haven't got a choice. Like I like being, I mean, I'm usually an introvert anyway. I don't really go out much as
No,
it
but like,
is.
what have you been?
But being
Do you
able
have
to,
exams?
my exams are next month, 2 months from now.
Okay, so when your exams are done, what are you
Mm.
gonna do? Like, when I say what you're gonna do, I don't mean like the long-term plan. I mean like, let's say a week after your exams, you wake up, yeah? You just wake up. I don't know what time you wake up, but you wake up. What does your day look like? You're gonna be at home. That's one.
You mean in this environment or typical?
Well, wherever you're gonna be when exams finish, because you're probably not gonna be staying in where you are. You're gonna come back to ends, innit?
Oh yeah, I'll be home
That's what
very
I'm saying.
soon
So
before end of
so that
April.
means you waking up in your own bed when there's no exams. What's that day gonna be like? Do you know?
I wish I knew, man.
That's what I mean. I feel like a lot of people are trying to figure this out because I'm telling you now, like Instagram's not gonna cut it. And I've had enough friends messaging me already talk about how they're losing their minds.
Mm. I don't really. I mean, I'm annoyed at the bigger picture, but in terms of short term, I don't really care. Like, there's things to do at any given time, at least in my
Okay,
life.
but that's what I mean. So tell me
But
about
I
the
know what you
day.
mean.
If there's things
Alright,
to do, then tell me about the day.
let's say June 20th, last day of my exams.
Yeah,
I'll be at home. I'll probably do some YouTube stuff, some podcast stuff. I'm trying to learn how to
yeah,
code.
yeah. Okay,
I don't know.
YouTube stuff, podcast stuff. How long does that take?
Probably like maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours per task. That's how I block out my time. So
Okay,
that's a 6 hour day between learning how to code, podcast, and then YouTube. And then after that, I'm gonna play some video games. That's a day for me.
I know, but what about this is the problem. What about the next day? Because what I find, I can't see, maybe this is just me being salty because I don't have a console. I was stupid enough to sell my console before I went to university,
Mm.
but I don't see how, like, my little sister's playing Sims at the moment. I can't see how that's gonna keep her entertained, like day after day. Because what happened with me as this thing started is that I had a game that I was playing. I had things that I would do to pass the time. I would watch films. I would listen to new music and stuff like that. It got to the point where I couldn't even do any of those things. None of those things entertain me because it's like you realize that you're doing it because you're bored, not because you want to. And then once you start doing things out of boredom instead of out of like, so let's say you're playing your console. Once you start playing games out of boredom instead of out of enjoyment, that's when it's going to start sapping at your energy and you're going to stop wanting to do it.
Oh yeah, no, I know what you mean.
Because like I said, there's a
Yes.
massive
Mm.
difference between doing something in the day and then you come back to your house or whatever and you've just been dying to play this game and you do it and then just sitting there and being like, it will get to the point where you can't even pick up the controller. Trust me. If it doesn't happen after a couple of days or it doesn't happen after a week, remember lockdown's going to happen for a long time. Are you really telling me that lifestyle of, let's say you weren't doing the learning coding and the YouTube stuff. Let's say you had literally had nothing but your family members and your console.
Mm.
You're saying that that lifestyle could sustain the summer?
I don't know, man. I mean, I want to be optimistic and say yeah, but I mean, I could never say it. I don't even know if I'm gonna live that long.
So what advice would you give to people, man? Because people out
For
here,
me,
this is what I'm saying. This we should be talking about
mm,
the relevant thing because people out here are struggling. So what would you
yeah,
tell
yeah,
to
yeah.
people?
For me, it's tough because I didn't have to adapt to solve this. Like, I clocked, must have been about 3 years ago, that the best thing I can do to grow as an individual would be to improve communication between past, present, and future selves. So I've always been taking notes like play guitar, learn to code, learn a new language. And I've got an extensive list somewhere of like hundreds of different things I want to do. So even
Yeah.
now, let's say I literally couldn't leave my room for 2 years. I would still only be like halfway through that list. And I would find a way to stay entertained. I feel like for some people that never really took that step, they don't really know what to do.
Would you stay happy though?
Like, I mean, it's hard to say. I think I would be, and at least I guess it's different because I've got a long term view. I don't really care about what happens this year, next year, the year afterwards. At some point in time, I want to buy Arsenal, and like everything I do between now and then, as in my perspective, has got to put me towards that goal. So be
Yeah.
that like selling more things on eBay, that means now I know I'm like £2 closer to buying the club, and it's like in the long run, I know it's gonna be worthwhile. I
Mm.
think the best advice I could give, if anything, would be to think about the long term. Like people are gonna come out of quarantine with exactly the same. This could be the time to learn a new skill, figure out how you're gonna do your business, start a new company. Like I don't know, there's so many opportunities now that it's like if you can't. I was saying the other day as well to my friend, like a lot of people complain they haven't really got the time or the resources to do things. But if you
Mm.
can't even do things now while you do have the time, that goes to show that you lack discipline and not time. And
Mm.
I don't know, it's a time for personal growth, I see it. And if you already are personally grown, like, I don't know, play games.
Yeah. I feel like
There's just too much uncertainty. It's hard to know.
people need to stop um making plans for when it's done.
Mm,
Because it's
mm,
not going to be done for a while. I feel like a lot of people, like something I did early on was I kept myself like motivated by making plans about what I was going to do when this is all done. The holiday I would go on, the celebrations we would have, like, and that's what a lot of friends told me, like the night out they're going to have when the lockdown. That's probably something that a lot of people are saying right now. Like they talk about the nights out that they're going to have when the lockdown gets released, the
yeah,
friends that they're going to see and all that kind of stuff. I feel like we need to forget about that for a while. We need to adjust to the new normal.
definitely, yeah,
The new
definitely.
normal is this. The new normal is that you are in your house and you've somehow got to make that work. And when I say make it work, I mean if you abandon structure, yeah. I was reading this thing today about how there's like a lot of people in the country are complaining about grogginess, where they're waking up at random times, they're going to bed at random times, their sleep schedule is completely messed up, and it's
Mm,
because no one's working anymore. Do you know what I mean? And
yeah,
no one's going outside anymore, and that in itself, like the exposure to sunlight, will affect your ability to sleep and stuff. But no one's if you're not going outside, and don't get me wrong, I'm not like the news out here telling you to go out into your massive luxurious back garden and to go and have play with your kids. I know there are people out there living in flats and apartments and estates that don't even have a garden. And
yep, sharing a
they
room,
have
like,
to isolate as well. I know people that are sharing rooms. These people have to isolate. I know a guy that came down with a fever, yeah, and his mum has just come out of like being critically ill. He can't
oh,
even get tested to know if he has the virus, and he has someone who's like a very high risk
high
person
risk. Yeah.
just living in the house, and all he can do is stay in his room.
Mm,
What I mean is, in that kind of situation, if you start telling yourself about the holidays you're going to go on and the friends that you're going to speak to and all of that stuff, that might work for a while, but eventually you're going to succumb to waking up at random times, going to bed at random times, and that's when you're going to start to break because you're not behaving like a human. You're not behaving normally anymore. You're
yeah,
behaving
yeah.
like you like all the structure has been taken out of your life. So all you're doing is surviving, and that's when you're gonna see people start to like break mentally. So in terms of what I think people need to do, people need to adjust to the new normal by putting a structure into it. If there's no structure there, you have to make one. Like you
Mm,
have
no, that's
to
true. That's
Have
true.
to have you have to have an excuse to get up at a certain time and to go to bed at a certain time. You have to have an excuse to exercise. You have to have an excuse to do all of these things.
Mm.
Like you would talk about learning new skills. I'm trying to do this with a language. I'm trying to, like, now that my exams have basically been cancelled, I'm trying to do the same kind of thing I was doing with my revision, which is waking up at the same time, doing a block set, like working like 9 to 5. So working, having an hour for lunch and then getting back to work. Doing that, but doing it with learning a language instead of revising for exams. Just so I have a reason to get up in the morning at a good time, go to bed at a good time, and there's time to do stuff around the house, there's time to exercise and stuff like that. If you lose that, if you are literally just watching TV and gaming whenever, you will start to spiral because it's going to hit your sleep first. Maybe it will hit your diet, stuff like that. And it will get to the point where you just transform into this like housebound zombie. And
Mm.
that's basically what I was saying before when I was saying, if you just had your family members and your console, would you mentally be able to hack it? Because if that's all you've got, what's to stop you from waking up at 4? What's to stop you from spending all day in bed and getting out of bed at like 4 p.m., having breakfast at 4 p.m., you know, and just living that kind of lifestyle, which will like physically drain you.
Yeah, yeah. No, I know what you mean. I think I'm lucky
People,
enough to have stuff to do, but
yeah,
if you don't,
people need a reason not to fall into that trap.
mm,
And that's just for people our age, man. Like, there's so many social problems being caused by this stuff. You've seen the spike in domestic violence.
yep.
God, this is a
That's
dark.
kind of
For,
expected
for
though.
two guys, I just read a quote. For two guys, yeah, that supposedly had all of these school adventures and lived this mad life. This has been a dark podcast. All we talk about is the black community is shit. Basically, that's the conclusion. So we come to the conclusion that the black community is shit. Then we start talking about how the virus is so peak and how yeah, like people need to hear jokes.
So I run through the list of questions that I had planned for this.
Go
It
on.
was like, why does life suck? Life sucks.
Oh man, but people need to be uplifted with at least. I mean, I know most of this stuff's gonna go in there. It has to go in for the podcast, but I feel like people need to be uplifted with at least one truly tremendous story.
Old, old.
So I'm thinking of what to say. I don't mind taking one for the team and telling one of my horrific stories. We could get into February. We can get into ABCD. Get
Oh, oh, oh,
we can get into I'm the only one with a girlfriend. I feel like, yeah. So if you really want to, the public in this desperate time, man, it's almost like our duty to let the people
Due
know about
diligence,
this.
innit? I want to start with Singapore because that
All
falling out the window story is.
right.
I don't know if it's
Okay.
because it's recent or if it's an all-time classic, but
I don't know. It's the reason why you should do. This is what happens when you've never been able to get girls. And suddenly you can get girls and you don't know what to do with this newfound knowledge, so you go crazy. So, Singapore, yeah. I got Tinder for the first time when I was on this
Mm.
holiday. And it was only because you and Brendan you got it and then you were successful on it and then you and Brendan were like basically made the account for me. And this is like halfway through the holiday. I got super liked by this I don't even know what to describe her ethnicity as. Uh, brown, I guess, brownish.
Well, she was Malay, right?
Huh?
Wasn't she Malay? Like Malaysian?
Uh, I don't know. She said she was from Singapore. Like, I don't know what that means.
Oh,
But
it's
she was,
Singaporean.
maybe she was Malay. She didn't, maybe, I don't know. But she was brown. And she was crazy. Like, legitimately insane. Right? I could just tell this from the messaging. It's fine though. It's that kind of like that edgy insane, like, she had tats, what'd you call it? She was like, all of her pictures were like, clearly it wasn't, it's like, not that they don't look good, like, do you know what I'm talking about? When you still putting in effort to look good, but you're
Yeah,
also
but
posing
it's
in an edgy
it's
fashion.
edgy
It's
like
not
in it.
posing to look good where it's like you in a dress at prom or something like that. It's
Mm.
like you sitting in uh, a shopping trolley out on the road, but like
Mm.
somehow
It's
you
silly,
pull the
innit?
pose that you still look good. Do you know what I mean?
Mm. I
So she
respect it.
was looking like that, and her the way she was speaking was I can't really remember it. She was forward. I didn't really know what I was doing. She basically set up the whole thing. I meet this girl, tell her to meet us by like a park that's by this hostel. Yeah, I go there. I'm very meticulous with these things. I like to plan out things in my head in terms of how they'll go, like a million times over. Then I decide on the best one and I do that thing. And then like normally within the first 5 minutes, it's like the plan that goes to hell. So I had planned that I was gonna get her immediately by just being the coolest guy she's ever met, by giving no fucks. She was gonna meet me and I was gonna change plans. Like we had this plan to go somewhere. We was gonna change plans, um, like instantly, yeah. And I was gonna do this other thing. That didn't happen. She
Mm.
found me lying down listening to music in this park. Oh, I'm doing a Gareth, man. I'm doing all of
All the
these irrelevant
specifics, like it was
relevant
28
details, like
degrees
humidity,
outside.
like degree.
There
Listen,
were three
let me
birds.
right there. All right. So we met up by the hostel. We took the train to this place called Orchard. We walked up to this viewpoint, which was just a parking. It wasn't really a viewpoint. She told me it was a spot, but it was just a car park, like an open car park. It didn't. It was on a hill, but it wasn't a hill that had a view. Like we were basically on the top of another house, and we were
Nice.
having big. And she was just telling me the wildest life stories, man. The absolute wildest life stories. She told me that she had a group of friends. She told me she had told. Okay, let me get details straight. She told me she had just come out of Penn because her and her ex-boyfriend, who was a dealer, got caught shotting in Singapore, where like you get the death penalty for smuggling. Like these, what I mean by nuts. So she was in
Yeah.
Penn for 6 months, and she has to have an electronic ankle tag for a year. And I thought she was joking until she pulled up her trouser leg and I saw the electronic tag. And then I was just like, me being me, I just rolled with it, man. That's just, if anything, that's cool to me. I was like, that's what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for any like 2-bit Sally Sophie boring ass thing. Like, if anything, I would have left if she didn't have an ankle tag. She was telling me about how her old friends, um, before she went in Penn, they would meet up all the time and they would just get absolutely waved. They had a day called Lean Friday.
Mm.
It was a known thing. I've never heard. It's incredible. Lean Fridays. Like every Friday, they would meet up and just have copious amounts of lean. I remember hearing about it. I
That's
remember
weird.
thinking it was the greatest thing that I've ever heard in my life. Like, can you imagine being in a situation where you just have this yard where you and all your mates go every Friday, and it's so common that you and your mates just go and have this ridiculous amount of lean. You just call it Lean Fridays, and it just sticks. The sickest thing. Remember, like 2-for-1 Wednesdays.
The view shared by Michael Harvey, you know?
And then she was telling me about what do you call it? She had this. Oh no, she was just telling lots and lots of crazy stories, right? Then we went to go see what was it? What's that film? That Tarantino film? Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
um, that's the one.
Yeah, we went to go
Yeah.
see it. Nothing really special happened, like just your typical kind of like date cinema stuff. Like we're walking around. Oh, we were getting pretty like by the time we got to the cinema, we were pretty drunk. We were drinking Anchor beer, which by the way, greatest beer. Like it's like 8%. It tastes fantastic. Yeah, you have one and you're tipsy. You have two and you're gone. And like I've never been like a pub guy. I've never been a big drinker, but this beer was just amazing. It gets the job done. We had like 3 of these beers going into the film, and by the end of the day, we had like at least 10 each. Um, but yeah, film was normal. We went to go meet a friend of hers outside the film. Then we met more friends of hers. We ended up chilling by the skate park with her and a bunch of her friends, just doing nonsense. It was getting late. and they all had to go back to separate places because they all have it wasn't really getting late, it was like evening time, it was like 6 o'clock, but they all have ankle tags, so they all have to be back by curfew. It's nonsense.
What
And
on earth?
yeah, one of the friends had to go to an AA meeting because her dad was making her go to an AA meeting, yeah.
Yep.
And he didn't explain to me why. It's not like she did anything. Apparently like, it was something to do with a boyfriend of hers or something, and her dad just got really paranoid and was like, alright, from now on, you have to come to these AA meetings with me. And
I don't know.
apparently the place that the AA meeting was close enough to this girl's house that she could be there and, and it not, like, break the curfew.
Mm.
So she asked me if I wanted to come down to an AA meeting, and I was like, of course. Like, I'd be offended. Like,
Free therapy, man. That's the way.
yeah, I was so weird at this point. Like, and I was determined as well. You have to remember, this is the first girl from the holiday. I was determined. Like, the date was going well. Like, the cinema was fun. Everything up to this point was very fun. Everything was very cute and all of this stuff. I was determined to get
Hey,
this
but
one home.
once you
So I
invest all
was
that
like,
time into it,
trust me. So this was a war
Toxic
of attrition.
Tuesdays.
This was a war of attrition, man, and I was ready to go the entire distance. So I went to this AA meeting. Yeah, one of the friends had to leave. The other group, we all went to this church where they were having this AA meeting.
Mm.
Oh yeah, on the way there, he nearly got in a scuffle on the underground because they were just screaming at each other, all drunk as hell, screaming at each other and just bouncing around. And then the girl like flew back at some point. I can't remember if someone pushed her or something, probably me. But she bumped into this guy. She bumped into this guy, and this is Singapore, right? Everyone's like, this is different to the UK, you know, like everyone's looking, there's a senior, everyone's looking down their shoes, everyone's like bare nervous.
Yep.
And the guy finally musters up the courage and says in like the most stuttery voice, like, you need to control yourself. And we all died. Like there was a group of about 4 of us, we just died. The way he said it, we just died, and then we just started screaming at each other. You need to control yourself, like the entire train journey. Yeah. We got off, we ran out of the station, we go to the AA meeting. They separate the guys and the girls. This is where it gets funny, actually.
Dear oh dear.
So they separate the guys and the girls. Yeah.
Mm.
So I'm in this AA meeting. They started off with this date while I'm on holiday in Singapore. Now I'm in this AA meeting with these 5 guys, yeah. I'm in the kitchen of this church, and they're going around and they're just telling these stories. When I say AA meeting, it wasn't like Alcoholics Anonymous. It was just like where people tell about their problems or anything they're struggling with. It was like a Christian thing.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Going around
Like
the
going to
circle.
church.
Yeah. They're going around the circle, and everyone's telling their story. My phone starts to vibrate. And I know she's calling me. And I know exactly why she's calling me as well. She's calling me to say that she's leaving. She's going back to her place, yeah.
Mm.
This guy opposite me is telling me like his deepest, darkest, innermost secrets, man. Like the struggles that he's dealing with, and everyone around is like listening intently. How the hell am I
Ah.
supposed to be like, excuse me 1 second, answer the phone, be like, yeah, I'm down to smash. Be like, sorry, I'm about to smash the daughter's friend. It was nice to meet with you guys. So I knew she was calling me. I knew why she was calling me, but I ignored the phone. I let
Mm.
everyone, it went round, let everyone speak. When it got round to my turn, even I spoke. I was like, yeah, my name's Michael. Uh, I was like,
Oh,
I tried to lighten the mood. I was like, I hear what you're saying, yeah, but like, life's great. Like, and like, you know, a couple of years ago, I was coming from with fairy lights and beanbags. That's a story for another podcast. And now I'm out
mm.
here smashing your friend's daughter. And then the guy shook my head. Okay, that didn't happen. But like, no, I basically tell him when it came around to my turn, I was just like, yeah, you should. Things will get better. I was telling like uplifting stuff, yeah. And then everyone was done. And then they said they were gonna take a minute to like pray or to like have a silence or something like that. And at that point, I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, guys. I'm gonna have to head out." Oh,
Mm.
I don't even think I had the balls to say that. I think I said, "Can I use the toilet?" And then I dashed out.
Just ran away.
I checked my phone when I left the room, and it was like 4 missed calls. As I'm walking past, because her friends were still there. She had left, but her friends were still there on the girls' side having their meeting. And I walked past the girls' bit to leave the church, and they were just laughing their head off at me.
Mad.
I go straight back to this girl's place, yeah, and like, well, I meet her in the street. She takes me up to her place. Um, she says that we have to be real quiet and we have to be like a bit careful because her dad was like supposed to be back any second. And I was like, okay, so if it happens, then you'll just jump out the window, right? And I was like, yeah, of course I'll jump out the window. I have no intention of jumping out the window. I don't jump out of windows. Like, I'm not this, I ain't this cool, like, these kind of stories, this isn't my thing, man. I went to church to try and be saved. I'm not out here to live this reckless jump. No. But at this point, that's not the part of my brain that's switched on. So I'm just being like, yeah, whatever you say, I'm nodding along. Go to her here. Things ensue. The kids were made. It was real cute as well. Like, was it? She does sketches. She gave me one of her sketches. I told her I might get it tatted. I really thought it was cool. I was really considering getting it tatted.
Mm.
And then she checks her phone and it says that I have to get up. And I'm like, why? I was like, what do you mean? He was like, nah, you have to get out. You have to go out by this time, I'm already like mostly dressed, so I guess it's not that deep. But she basically chucks me out her window. From her window, I have to jump down this ledge. That's from the second story down to the floor, right?
Mm.
I feel like this whole time she thought I was this cool guy, yeah. But the way I was just, the way I went down this ledge, like I was looking over the ledge for like 5 minutes. I was like, are you sure? Like, come on, man. It's a floor. You're joking. It was like, yeah, but, and then at some point I was just like, I really do have to do this, don't I? Like, I'm not gonna fight her dad, am I? I was really weighing up like the possibility of just fighting her dad. Cause it was gonna be my issue if anything happened afterwards. But, I was like,
True.
you know what? I'll jump down. Whatever. I start to climb down. My phone falls out my pocket from the second story, smashes into a million pieces.
Nightmare.
I jump down after it. I land on my ass. Um, I scream out like "fuck you" as I'm leaving, and then like "thanks," and then like something else. But run out, yeah. Then I realized that my phone won't turn on because it smashed into a million pieces, and it's like midnight, roughly midnight, and I have no idea where I am in Singapore. I don't even really know where our hostel is. So I'm running around, um, looking for any civilians that will tell me where to go. Civilian points me in the direction of this train station, and um, I run in that direction and I come across a school. Rather than going around or doing what someone else would do, I guess, I hop the fence
Yeah,
of the
like
school.
normal person.
Yeah. And when I hop the other fence of the school to get out of the school, my trouser leg gets caught in the fencing, in the wire, and completely like tears it to shreds. So it's like one leg of my jeans is like just ripped open. So then
Okay.
I'm covered in dirt and all this nonsense with my tattered clothes, and I'm running up to pedestrians, screaming at them, asking for the nearest train station. And for some reason, another thing I love about Singapore, they were so friendly, man. Guy just pointed me straight out. He was like, all right, you take a right, then you take a left or something like that. Then the station is right there. You can't miss it. I was like, GG. Found the station, went back to the hostel. And yeah, man, that was the wildest date ever had. I now have
Mad.
ridiculously expensive child support payments. And yeah, that was it. That was just one of the Singapore tales, man. Singapore was crazy. Like,
Mad, man.
I feel like now that I'm thinking about it, I feel like you should get extra points for the alliteration.
For what? Toxic Tuesday?
No, for rhyming. You should get extra points.
Nightmare.
Because that's like one of the stars. Like, one of the hidden achievements. Like, get one that rhymes.
It's true.
Oh, and get one that,
I'm a boss. when I came back through the border, they stamped on my passport. Not a handshake.
Actually, you're. Nah, I won't make that joke. That joke's too dark. I was gonna make a joke about the girl in Bali, but like, nah, it's like we've said some stuff that's probably gonna get us fired, but at least it won't put us in jail. Like, I'm not directly to jail. So yeah, I'll leave that for another time. But that's not even one of the top stories, man. I feel like if we're gonna end this, we need to end on like a real classic. And I wish Gareth was here, man, because I can't tell these stories like Gareth does.
No, I'm having Gareth on next. That's just going to be a whole 2 hours roast of Gareth. But I think the most important question to follow up from that Singapore story was, did she call you back though?
No. And I messaged her as well. I was like, because I was so gassed. Like I said, this is coming from a background of never really having done anything like this before. And I just thought it was normal. I thought this was what dating was. That's the weirdest thing. I thought that, like, they all have electric tags. Like, most of them end up in, like, these AA meetings. Like, this is, like, a traditional way of doing things. And, like, what do you call it? Maybe, like, like, when everyone was, like, the Nando's phase?
Oh yeah. Cheeky
The
Nando's, yeah.
Nando's phase, and now there's, like, an AA meeting, like, criminal phase where like people just go out and they date these felons and have lean on Friday. Like I thought there were all of these trends that I missed out on that were like the new norm. It turns out no. So I messaged her and I was like, "Yo, you just gave me like the most incredible story." Like, and I just want to say thank you so much. No response whatsoever. Listen, I'm not ashamed to say that I subscribe to the Patrice O'Neill logic when it comes to this stuff, man. If anyone who doesn't know who I'm talking about, you need to check that shit out. Yeah. I subscribe to the Patrice O'Neill logic, the wisest man when it came to this stuff. And if you know what I'm talking about, you want to talk about where the knowledge came from in terms of how you learned this stuff. And I said like experience, but experience of others. The Black Phillip Show has been educating the population on these matters for over a decade now. And all of those shows, which is basically a show where this comedian, Patrice O'Neill, had a radio show with others. He regularly had on people like Bill Burr. If you ever heard of Opie and Anthony, he had a show with them as well. And they would have people basically call in and ask like relationship questions. And they would answer those relationship questions while also telling their own like funny stories and stuff like that. And you can you got this like kind of philosophy, this overlying philosophy that fell through with all of it. And like, I subscribe to that philosophy, which is basically you have to, you, you have to understand the mechanics of this game and how it works. And it fundamentally comes down to the fact that you're dealing with two very different, it's almost like two different like, species. Have you ever heard him talk about the harassment day joke?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Where he's talking about fish. He's talking
Yeah.
about how men are like, fishermen, yeah. The girls are like fish in the sense that what do you do when you, look, what do fishermen do? They go out, they catch fish, take a picture with it,
Yeah, and they
show
throw
it
it
to their
back.
friends. Show it to their friends so that, your friends know that you can catch fish and then throw the fish back. And then any girl you end up with is a fish that jumped back on the boat. And initially the fish would jump back on the boat and be like, "Oh, I'm so, thanks for catching me." And then they'll try bit by bit kind of strip away the thing that makes you attractive in the first place. So they'll be like,
Hmm.
I'll be like, we've been dating, we've been seeing each other for 6 months now. Why do you have a boat? And then like, I need to have a fish smell on me. I need to show you that I can fish so that you basically know that I can catch other fish so that you don't behave like absolute shit. Now, that may be I don't know if that's controversial thing to say. I don't know if that's controversial belief, but I believe that fully. And basically the difference between where you say there's the PE guys and there's everyone else, the PE guys, that rule doesn't apply to. The PE guys can do whatever they want because they have the physical attraction over it. The difference between everyone else though, is that there are some people when the fish comes on and says, we'd been seeing each other for 3 months. Why'd you have a boat? They get rid of the boat. And then it's like, they'll be looking around, they'll look at other people fishing, and they'll be like, well, my guy can't catch fish. And it all just goes downhill from there. You look at those guys, you don't really rate them, you don't really respect them, so you're not really attracted to them. You end up leaving them, you end up disrespecting them. Whereas the
Mm.
person that's like, you know what, I can catch other fish. It's a mentality thing. If someone's good looking, that's just a factual truth. If a girl sees herself as a 6 and she sees her guy as a 9, and he knows
Mm.
that that guy could be with better looking girls, that's not something that he has to convince her of. That's just something that she inherently believes is true. She believes that this guy could get more attractive girls. So if she wants to
Mm.
be with him, she has to cater to his interests.
No, I get that. It's a power dynamic, isn't it?
If she, yeah, if she doesn't have that belief from you physically, you have to impose it mentally. It's the same thing. You have to be able to make, if you're with a girl and you want to respect your hustle and everything that you do, you need to be able to convince her that you can get, not even better, you can just get other girls. Like, she could leave and you would be fine. I think that in a relationship, that's every girl's biggest fear. That one day they work up this big anxiety, they work up the courage, and they go, you know what, I'm leaving you. And then the guy would be like, finally, calls up his boys, be like, yeah, bring those things over, and just has this great time. Like, I feel like that's every person's biggest fear when it comes to a relationship. You need to keep that, as toxic as it sounds, if you don't keep that fear, then something much worse will happen, which is just, you're just absolutely disrespected. I don't even know how we got into this point.
Neither.
It has nothing to do with anything we were talking about before. And uh, it's a real good analogy that I like. And yeah, anyone listening, listen to Patrice O'Neal, man. Patrice O'Neal is the maddest. Kane Carter too, a little bit. Although he did steal a lot of your jokes, Kane Carter, like the 3-to-1 theory.
Oh yeah.
I heard you talk about that in primary school, man. And then this guy just comes on and makes a YouTube video about it.
A lot of Kane's jokes were taken from Patrice.
Yeah, I kind of, back when I was a massive Kane fan, I defended it. But now that I've listened to a lot more Patrice and I've looked at the videos, and also, here's the interesting thing. He actually, Joe Rogan actually called him out on it. Joe
What,
Rogan
Kane
made a very
Carter?
good, yeah.
Interesting. I haven't seen that.
And, he made the point that, like, he was making a general point about, like, comedians that steal other people's work, and then he mentioned, like, Kane Carter for a bit. But,
Mm.
he's basically saying you can tell the real frauds because when they have to write their own material, it sucks. And when
No, I
Ken
hear that.
Carter started getting millions of views, it was when he was basically ripping off the stuff. And when the original stuff, I'm not taking everything away from him. He still had some original stuff, like the Super Mario Bros, like all of those little skits that he would do. That's
Yeah, they
original
were
stuff.
his. Mm.
The stuff with his friends, like when he's just telling stories about things that would happen with his friends, like the new Friends video, that was all original stuff. But the stuff that really got the views, like simple mathematics, especially the 3-to-1 theory and all of that kind of stuff, like that was just not him. And then when he had to make his own stuff, I feel like he ran out. He was running, like, obviously massive things happened to him that made him change direction anyway. But that was the thing
Yeah,
that
he
really
did.
made. That was the thing. That was the thing that made him lose a lot of views when he started having to write his own material. He really struggled.
Mm. I know you've talked about it in the past about how you feel like you didn't really. You know, I was saying that after school you kind of went through Cambridge and uni and that, and you didn't really feel like it was worth it, or didn't really do much. Like,
Yeah.
obviously now that you're graduating, what's your overall view on your experience
I feel like I wasted an opportunity, a fantastic opportunity.
at
I feel
Cambridge or
like
uni in general?
at both at Cambridge
Mm.
and at uni in general. I think I came in with a very kind of me against them attitude to Cambridge from very early on. I enjoyed freshers, but there was a turning point early in freshers where it was like this kind of school disco, we call it bops, where that same guy that I mentioned before, the guy that was like the black guy that was 2 years older than me that everyone loved. I remember not enjoying it, and I remember asking was like, because everyone was hyping it up for ages. It was like the thing that ended freshers, and everyone was loving it. Apparently, it's this thing where you just drink beer, you dance to music. I was hearing all of these tunes that I just, I just can't dance to them. And I'm
Yeah.
not really the biggest clubber anyway, but it was like, and I think that summer I had been to, it was either that summer, but sometime recently I had been to Trinidad. And so I'd lived that life and I was at this spot and I was just like, I'm not feeling it. And the guy was like, oh, you just need to drink more. And I think something like that, something about the way you said it, yeah, and who it was that was saying it triggered me. I was just like, okay, nah, this ain't for me. Like, it's not gonna be for me. And then there were various other things that happened later down the line that kind of enforced that view, like various things that I had with the people that lived around me and people that I met, like people that I saw around the university and the things that I saw going on, the activities that I saw going on, the activities that I participated in that I didn't really feel as much as everyone else. But it was very much from early days a me against the world kind of attitude when it came to university. And it's only till very recently that I
Mm.
noticed that it didn't have to be like that. It really never had to be like that. And and it made me feel like I had wasted a lot of, socially, I wasted a lot of time, and also academically, I wasted a lot of time at university. Like, I'm walking out of university with a small handful of mates. Not many people know me. I wasn't very active, and I didn't do any societies. I did make good friends, but I made few good friends, and outside of that, I didn't really have acquaintances. I wasn't well known. I didn't really do anything outside of study, hang out with my boys, uh, do the occasional, mission, and sleep a lot,
Mm.
and various other things. So, like, I'm very regretful of how I spent my university years in the sense that, I could have I didn't have to come in with this negative attitude towards university. Like, it's not that bad. I feel like I was so out to dislike everything. And the things really weren't that bad. Like, they were, like I've said, I didn't really go to formals. Formals are fun, man. Formals are these, like, once you get past the fact that it's black tie, I would always harp on about the fact that you have to get dressed up in tuxedos. Why don't people go KFC and stuff like that? Where I was
Mm.
completely missing the point. The point is that it's something outside of all of the work that you do. It's a time where you can meet up with your friends, have food, and, drink copious amounts of wine, and generally enjoy yourself, maybe go out afterwards and stuff like that, but you get to see everybody and you get to, you do it in a nice environment. Like, most of the forums that I went to, I liked. Like, at some point, it just, I never really got the point of these things. I was very combative with all of these things. I was trying to find reasons not to go to all of these things when I should have just relaxed and just been like, you know what? It's not Trinidad. And it's not Hounslow either. Like, it could be better. Like, these parties aren't crazy. It's not like these things are crazy, but it's better than just chilling in your room.
Mm.
Do you get what I mean? I spent a lot of time either chilling in my room or just chilling in a mate's room. I've spent even
Yeah.
times where I would pre with my friends, and when my friends went to the club, I wouldn't go. I was so focused. This is back before the holiday. I was so focused on getting things and not getting things, and getting bitter when I wouldn't, that I forgot that the whole point of a night out is just being out with your boys and having fun and having bands. Remember that time you gave the speech about going prism? You've been saying that for years.
Mm. You just have a good time, innit?
Yeah, and I was so wrapped up in everything having like a point or a mission. Like, what's the point of formals? What's the point of that? Rather than just going with the flow, I was so resistant to going with the flow. And the reason why it sunk in terms of regretfulness is because when everyone, obviously my course is 4 years. When everyone graduated at the end of third year, so I had a group of 7, yeah, and
Mm.
three of that group graduated, and there were four of us left. So that's me, Sam, Mark, and Shane. Now, Mark and Shane would just hang out with each other. They're just weird like that. They just played Fortnite all day, every day. Had,
Gamers.
yeah, but they had the sleep schedule, like, their sleep schedule was not really adapted from, Hong Kong time. So they would just be up at like the middle of the night and be sleep throughout the entire day and just
Mm.
game and just do like, so I was just like, they were just spending all the time with each other and like doing work and chilling indoors. So I didn't really want to do that. Sam made the good move to actually start hanging out with first years when he was in third year. So by the time we got to fourth year, he had all of these second years around him that were always going out, always doing things. So he had, girls that wanted to get with him because he was the older guy. He was going pub all the time. He was going club all the time. He was still active.
Yeah.
Found myself in a position. Oh yeah, Joe and them lot had left as well. So I'm in a position where no one's around. Like even a lot of the mates that I had from other colleges all graduated as well. So I was doing absolutely nothing. That's when it hit me. I was doing nothing but seeing actually no, I won't even go into that. But I was doing nothing, right? And that's when it kind of clicked that like this is so dead and I have no one to blame but me, in the sense that like I I could be out there doing all of this stuff. And like I said, it's not incredible stuff. It's not like I'm missing out on festivals or fantastic holidays. Like I said, just the idea that I was like in my room and I didn't have to be, but I chose that kind of like that being in your room life instead of just like going with the flow and just mixing with people. So I regret that. And academically, I regret not being more realistic from day one. You know that F1 dream? I dreamed of if we want to go into specifics of it, when it came to F1, yeah, I remember one time it was 2012, and it was where the third time Vettel won the championship, and he had come from behind to do it. It was like a very tense year that year. And I remember seeing him win and seeing the engineers go crazy. And I held that image for years, as in like that's all of the work that I'll ever do will be so worth it when you get that moment. Winning a championship. To me, winning a championship was everything to me. And it was something that I believed that I could do. If I worked hard enough, I could do it. And I went to university and I was fixed with this view. There's a couple, I never even thought about what it would be like to work. Like, I can see now why in interviews it was kind of alienating when people asked me about the career, because I kept talking about how I was going to work my way up to the top. But I completely missed the point of working, like the groundwork that you have to do for the many years that you're working as like a junior before you get to rise to like management levels, before you get to hold trophies and stuff like that. All of that work you have to do. And I never really understood the reality of it. The reality of it is in F1, you work for pretty much bum pay for 13, 14-hour days during the season.
That's mad.
At any time, both socially and academically, I just had this defiance, man. People would tell me stuff and I was just so sure that I was right and I wouldn't listen to anyone else. I was so sure that formals were bad and everyone else was wrong. They just didn't get it. They didn't get why it was bad. Do you get what I mean? People used to tell me that F1 wasn't worth it. I should start thinking about other avenues. I was just like, you don't understand what loving F1 is like. So like, I'm just not going to really take your point of view seriously. And then it came down to my final year where it's like, okay, realistically, I see friends going into banks, working for banks. I see friends working for these trading firms. I know people, like I'm close with people that are walking into 6-figure salary jobs straight away from university. And then suddenly I'm looking at my own goals and I'm looking at, I start looking more into the work. Is the work really that interesting? Like I've definitely fell out of love with engineering while I was at university. Do I really love understanding fluid dynamics that much? Do I love it enough to dedicate 14 hours a day to it for bum pay? Where that means that because I live in London, it means that I won't be able to move out for years. Also, F1, all of the factories are in the UK, which means I'd have to live here. I'd have to commit my entire life to living in this country, which is something that I don't really want. After thinking about it, after traveling, it's not really something that I want to do. So by the time I started to ask these questions, I started to think about these questions, it was almost too late. I was lucky enough to put myself into a career path that's doing something that I enjoy, that's going to allow me to do the things that I want to do, which is travel, which is able to earn enough money that I can like move out at a decent age and start my adult life at a decent age. But I was so damn defiant. And had I just realized this stuff earlier, I could have saved myself I could have given myself a lot more good times in terms of the social aspect, and I could have saved myself a lot of effort and given myself a better career when it comes to like the academic stuff, man. So yeah, massive, like, not to say it's the end of the world. I came out of university with good friends, a good job, a good
Mm.
career path, good prospects. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
remember, I remember telling you guys when I was killing myself trying to um make sure I aced the interview when I got an interview for Cambridge. I remember telling myself when I got the offer that was it. Like, I've won. Anything that happens after today, I've won. Because something bad in Cambridge, it's still, even if it's not the best Cambridge degree, it's still a Cambridge degree. For someone like me, from where I come from, that's just a win. You can't really lose from that position. So I
Mm.
remember, and it still applies to this day, that day was the day that was the most important day of my life, that interview, in the sense that because I got it right, it's very hard to get it wrong afterwards. So I'm not regretful in the sense of I should have gone to a different uni, and I know I've been saying that for a while, but that's not the case. I'm not regretful like I should have gone to a different uni, and I'm not regretful in the sense that I've left with nothing. I've left with some pretty good stuff,
Yeah,
but
it's
it
just
could have
not what you do.
been a lot
Could have been
better.
more. Mm.
And the reason why it wasn't is all me. It's all my own like stupidity. It's all my own defiance. It's all of my own kind of stuff, man. You know when we were in Singapore, not Singapore. Remember Indonesia?
Yeah,
This
Bali.
is the best. This is the best way of describing it. Yeah, Bali. You remember when we went to the club that time, and I was behaving like an animal, like
Yeah,
almost unrecognizable. Well, not unrecognizable for you because you know that like that
yeah,
happened.
we've been dumb, man.
Yeah. It was like that. But like, so basically, I feel like as I've got older, that kind of dumb nature has like reduced and I'm able to have a calm head and like relaxed and like chill with people and stuff like that. But it's still there. And it's been like, when I was younger, it was very, very prevalent. That kind of dumb, aggressive, defiant attitude towards everything.
Mm.
And think like yeah, so now it's like, I'm looking back and I see all of the like now that I can chill with people, now that I can relax, I can see all of the good times that I could have had. And instead of good times, it's either being alone in my like chilling or like actual negative things like that club night. So, but you live and you learn. Do you know what I mean? It's better to learn it than to never learn it. But in terms of what I learned from university, and university gave me a lot of good skills as well. It gave me a work ethic that I never had before. I used to
Mm.
be very content to sit around all day and just play Xbox. Now I always have to be doing something. Definitely matured me a lot. It humbled me a lot because it took away that ego of being the best at maths that I had for
Yeah,
so
yeah,
many
yeah.
years.
That's uni.
Yeah. And it gave me some good social experiences as well. But oh yeah. That basically, to answer your question, yeah. University was something that I could have done a lot better. I could have had more of an influence than I did. Also, that's another thing, man. I feel like, not to toot my own horn or anything, but you see how you've been active with this podcast and this YouTube channel. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember a friend of mine telling me that, I should have done I should have at least tried doing stand up or something like that. I never,
Mm.
for the years that I was there, there's so many things that I've always wanted to do. Like, I've always wanted to kind of like make a show. I wanted to do like a kind of like an Adult Swim thing, like an animated thing. There's things that I wanted to do. Never put like radio show, all of that kind of stuff. Never put any effort into doing those things or meeting the people that did those things. And obviously when you then look at people like Josh Crow and what's going on with, Baby Step, I'm not saying I could have done it, but it's kind of annoying to feel like my student life is over and I never even tried to do it.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean? If you tried it and it just turned out to never be that big, like for example, if you had this idea that you would do a podcast and you become Joe Rogan overnight and it never happened, at least you could say, okay, well, I tried to make a podcast, it didn't happen. Now I'm going to
Mm.
focus on other things, or now I'm just going to continue. I like doing what I do. I'm just going to continue with it. But yeah, if you had this idea of always doing a podcast and then you just never got around to it, and then it got to the point where you couldn't, like once this coronavirus stuff is done, I'm starting my career. You
Yeah,
know,
no, it's true.
I'm have, I'm not going to be a student anymore. So I'm not going to have access to all of these things that I've had access to for so many years. I'm not going to have access to these clubs and all of these resources to go and do this stuff. So it's almost like I took my foot off the gas. I tried so hard to get into university. I didn't try as hard when I was there. I didn't try hard socially. I didn't try as hard as I could have academically. And actually, no, that's not even true. It's the focus. Because I tried very hard. While I believed in the F1, I tried very hard to realize that dream. It's only when I realized that I didn't want it. And then I was desperately running out of time to find an alternative. Like, thankfully I did. There's a lot of people in my situation, fourth year engineers for fourth years that didn't secure work. And now the coronavirus has hit, and obviously companies aren't really doing interviews and stuff anymore, and they don't really know where they're going to be. So there's a lot of graduates right now that are in a very precarious situation that thankfully I'm not in. But it's just I feel like when it hits, it's just a very kind of low feeling when you realize that things
Time's
could
up.
have been better. And the reason, no, not even that, things could have been better. Well, yeah, it's the combination of those two things. Things could have been better, and the reason why they weren't is you. But also,
Mm.
yeah, time is up. Like, you've learned this thing, but it's too late now to implement the things that you've learned. You just have to live with the fact that you could have done things better. And that's it. Like, that's the end of the story. So, I don't know.
Yeah, that's peak.
Yeah. But it's not, like, it's not
Yeah, it's not very
that.
peak. Just kind of peak.
I don't know. I wouldn't even say, yeah, I don't even know if peak is the right word. Cause like I said,
It's a
I've had
shame, I guess.
some properly amazing times. And
Mm.
also this whole thing's a process as well. You're always going to look back and be like, I could have done this. Like, that's just human nature. You could ask anybody. Like, there's always stuff that you could do better. And this stuff, in all honesty, this stuff only really started to affect me, in my final year. And that's because a lot of people graduated.
Yeah.
But, and like I said, who knows that if I had done all of these things that I would have even enjoyed them anyway. Like, had I tried all these things. So, but yeah, it's just a little bit of a regret that I have. But I'm very, what was even your original question? Were you asking me about uni, or were you asking me about like what I've learned from uni?
No, I mean, you kind of answered it. Just how your reflective view, I guess, on uni, having now that you're a graduate. And you
Okay.
basically answered it, innit?
Nah, because now I'm making it sound like I just regret everything. That I was just focusing on like the stuff that could have gone better. I think, there's other things I could talk, I just want to round off quickly by talking about some other things about uni that I think is important that I've learned.
Mm.
One is that education is a little bit of a scam. I,
Yeah.
I kind of had the idea of it before, but I never really fully realized it until I started looking at the numbers while I was in university. Um, Education in this country is a scam because, more and more people are more and more people are going to university.
Mm.
People are getting jobs. People are getting degrees that are virtually worthless. Like there are some degrees where the earning potential is actually less than someone that doesn't have a degree. So not only do you have all of that student debt, you leave university and you get jobs that are worse than people that don't have degrees.
Yeah, I've seen that.
So it means that they don't pay back their student loan. So that's the bottom people. So the bottom class of people are people that get degrees that aren't good enough to pay back their student loan. Then you have the top class of people who don't take loans at all. They pay for their education up front. So 9K a year, they'll pay that. Then they
Mm.
don't have a student loan. The people in the middle, the people that go to Russell Group universities or people that go to universities that have good earning potential and they take student loans are screwed because I worked it out, yeah. If you account for inflation, because of national insurance and student loan, I'll have to pay, no, just from student loan alone, I'll have to pay £132,000
Yeah.
back.
Over 30 years.
Yeah, that's from the initial 36K of debt that I have.
Well,
Just to
45.
put things into perspective, um, as if I was to earn 70K at the age of 30 years old in the UK, my
Mm.
take home money would be 45,000. So I would lose £25,000 to taxes.
And national insurance and that, yeah.
Yeah. In Singapore, as a citizen, if you're 30 years old and you're earning 70K, your take-home pay is 66k.
Mad.
Just from being in a different country, you earn £21,000 more from the same salary. I don't know what the
Mm.
percentage is of that. 21,000. It's roughly like what? Just somewhere between 20 and 25%.
It's like 30%
Okay,
of
30%.
7,000. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, you're earning 30. Your take-home pay is 30% more because you're in a different country. And even if you're a foreign expat, like even if you're not a citizen, you still you still get way more take-home pay. So that's something I've realized from university, that education system in this country is a little bit of a scam because you have all of these people that can't pay back their student loans. So what they do is they raise the interest on these student loans so that the people that can pay them back, you're basically paying for everyone else that can't pay it back. So I'm not just paying back my student loan, I'm paying back the student loan of 5 other people that are getting jobs where they won't be able to afford to pay it back.
Yeah.
That's basically what's happening with the education system. So it's screwing people like me so that more universities can take on more students, so that more people are paying 9k a year, so that the universities get more money. So basically it's taking money out of my pocket and putting it in the university's pocket. Like literally.
Yeah. That's always been how it is, though. Not
And
for as
if you
much
look
as
at the
90
people,
era.
if you look at like say Claire and Jack, what did they do? Apprenticeship at 16, worked for Sky, they've been working since they were 16, they have their own place, they've had their own place for, you know, at least a year now.
Mm. Yeah.
And
Fair play to them.
I'm here. I'm spending isolation in my mum's house. And I'm like I said, I'm the Cambridge student. Like that's like this is as good as the education system gets, and it's
Mm.
not really giving me much. So education is a bit of a scam. And uh yeah, I think that's about it. Like drugs are great. Um
The views shared by Michael Harvey are not representative.
drugs are cool. Um education is boring as well. I used to think that I liked the subjects, but a big reason why I liked school was because of class. It was just fun. A lot of the
Mm.
fun goes when you go to university. I guess it has to, like it becomes work, like it becomes a job, like it's gearing you up for getting a job. So it's gonna have to stop being a classroom at some point. But like, if you love your subject at school, don't necessarily think that you're gonna love it at uni because it becomes a different thing. And just final points. I don't know, man. Uni's fun. Like if I was to sum all of this up and like I was giving advice to one other person, I would say that university is an enjoyable experience, man. If you can do it in a financially viable way, you should do it because it's a real experience. Being a student, because it's a few more years where you can wake up, like let's be real, you can miss lectures, you can wake up whenever you want, as long as you're kind of getting through the degree. If you
Mm.
choose to see it as a job, you can see it as a job. You can work 9 to 5. You can do fantastically well, and that's fine if you choose to. What I'm saying is, when you go into work, that's not your choice. You can't choose when you come to work at 9 a.m. That's not because you've decided to attend work today. You have to, or you get fired. That's not the same with uni. If you want to go to a lecture, you can. If you can't, they don't kick you off the course.
Yeah.
You can plan the work around you. You can do as much as you need or as little as you need to pass the exam. You can. I spent my entire second term of first year. It was beautiful. It was one of the most beautiful periods of my life. Me and 2 mates of mine. We had this friend who loved rolling, and me, him, and this other guy. We would go out we would meet up every other day, watch American sitcoms, eat amazing home cooked meals, like we would take turns cooking and stuff, and that would be we would just chill. We would chill all day. We would chill like during this, and this was like it was a really warm spring as well. So we would just chill out in the sun while everyone's like working, and we all party. Like it was, that's what I mean. Like that part of your life, like it extends the child bit of your life. As soon as you go into work, I feel like the child bit of your life is over
Mm.
because you're
No, definitely.
constrained. you have to be at work 9 to 5. I'm not saying that it means you have to get married, doesn't mean you have to have kids, but you have to be at a certain place. Like, they now control a certain portion of your life, your job,
Mm.
whatever it is. As a student, you get to be a kid for 3 or 4 more years, basically. Like, obviously you have to work, but it's nothing compared to having a job. You still get to, and if you're living on halls, that means you get to live around people, you get to live around your friends. When you leave university, if you're not living at home, if you're not renting a space with like a handful of mates, or you're living with like a partner or something, it's definitely not the same as living on halls. You could have 90% of your mates be within 5 minutes walk of you.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
something that's exclusive to university. So it's real fun, man. It's like, as much as I say I regret it, it's a lot more fun than 4 years of being in a job would have been. And like I said, if it's financially viable, in the sense that if it's not screwing you over, because a lot of the times it is, then you should go university just for the experience, because it's such an experience.
Mm. Yeah, I would always say like the degree for most people isn't worth it, but the experience is priceless. At least to me.
And if you do the right things, the degree is good too. It puts you in contact. You know what it is? You have to see opportunities as they are. If you're so for example, with me, if I'm at Cambridge, right,
Mm.
I'm around the people that I could have been in contact. Like, this is something that I also regret not doing. Why did I not put myself in contact with the people that were basically going to be running the world in the next 20 years? Because they all went there.
Mm. Yeah, networking,
These,
innit?
huh?
Networking.
Yeah, do you get what I mean? So there's that. That's another thing with university. If you're not the guy that's going to be on top of the world, you can at least meet the person that is.
Mm. Like
You
within
can
your
learn.
engineering class, there was at least one future F1 person in there.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that I've learned about life in terms of how a lot of the stuff I know now about how money works, about how taxes work, I've got from just observing friends of mine, people that I would have never met if I didn't go to university, people that went to these top ass private schools, people that have parents that are worth hundreds of billions, that they know this stuff naturally. So I don't, if I'm just around them long enough, that information kind of just filters off. I was talking about how to apply for banks and stuff, how to write good cover letters, how that
Mm.
wasn't the career service that did that. That's just from being around people that know how to do this stuff.
Yeah,
If we
yeah,
were
yeah.
just the same people from school, I would have never picked up this information. There's no one to learn it from.
Mm. Yeah,
So
it's
that's
true.
another. University is useful because it puts you, if you, it puts you in contact with, it puts you in the same vicinity as the people that are going to change the world. And I don't just mean academically. I don't mean when it comes to money. Imagine if your passion was comedy and you went to university. If you went to Cambridge, that means you went to the same university that Richard Ayoade went to. Those, I forgot their names, but the guys from Peep Show, they were in a drama club. They were in Footlights at Cambridge. There's so many opportunities to meet these people, see these people, go to places that you would have never gone to otherwise. And that's not just exclusive to Oxbridge. That's university. That's what university does. It pulls all of these people together. When you've got a pool of people, you've got opportunities.
Yeah, that's the big benefit of having a community, innit?
Yeah. Um.
Mad, man.
Yeah. That's it, man. That's
All
it.
right. Yeah, yeah. To wrap up, because obviously it's been 2.5 hours. I guess like the main takeaways then would be like to take advantage of the opportunities you do get, because you never know until it's too late half of the time. And I guess fundamentally just like enjoy yourself, innit?
Um.
One day there's going to be a time where you're locked down and you can't do anything. Make the most of the good days. Anticipate the bad ones.
Yeah, but doing that, I feel like it's very easy to say that and have those words have no meaning. I feel like if you really want to enjoy yourself, if you really want to enjoy yourself, or you really want to live your best life, or whatever people are saying, if you really want to do that, you really have to, you really have to try and understand your emotions and stuff and how you work. A great way to see it is like if you've been watching Better Call Saul or Breaking Bad, you see these characters that are in denial about their true personas, what they really want to do, and that's what puts them in so much danger. If they were just honest with themselves from the beginning. So it's like Walter White is just like, you know what? I love the idea of people thinking that I'm the boss and people thinking that I'm really powerful, and that's what I'm getting from this. I could fulfill that need some other way without putting like everyone I know and killing loads of people. Like for me, like if you had told me in first year to relax and start enjoying myself, I wouldn't have started going out more. I would have done whatever I thought at the time was the best thing to do, which would have been, spending more time chilling.
Yeah.
Because you have to
Well, know
to move
yourself.
in the to move in the right direction, you have to, like, you need a map, you need a compass. You when you tell people just to live their best life, it's like just continuing down the road that you're on doesn't necessarily mean, you're doing things great, because there's so many other paths you can take. So if you want someone to relax and start enjoying themselves, if you want someone to live better, I guess the advice that I would say is that, yes, you should enjoy yourself, you should relax and live well. But if you're not, if you're in a situation, this is my takeaway from this whole thing. If you're in a situation, and it's funny because it has nothing to do with university, it has nothing to do with anything we were even talking about. It's kind of a general point.
Calm.
If you're in a situation where things aren't going the way you plan them to, whether it be you're not enjoying yourself enough in life, you're not making as much money as you wanted to, you didn't get the job that you want. If you're unhappy for a reason, you have to
Mm.
work out why that
That
is.
reason is, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You can't just, and you really, and that's hard, that's a lot harder, a lot easier said than done, because it may involve revealing some truths about yourself that you'd rather not know. But in order to improve your life, you need to know those things. You need to know basically where you're fucking up so that you can stop fucking up. But that means holding a mirror in front of yourself. So if things aren't going well, honestly, you need to take the time, as painful as it is, you need to swallow the pill and be like, what am I doing? What am I doing or what am I not doing? Why am I unhappy with this situation? And then you have to, once you figure that out, you have to put in effort. You have to put in work to really try and do something. And that's another thing. We're designed to, we're creatures of habit. Humans, we're creatures of habit. We're designed to follow habits very easily. It's very hard for us to break habits, even if it's the right thing to do. So all of these adjustments and all of these changes, I think, like, that's one reason why today you have a lot of, a lot of depressed people, a lot of anxious people. If you really want to fix the issue, at the end of the day, it requires work. It means if you know that something's not working, you have to be bold enough to try something new, even if it feels wrong, even if it feels weird. To someone that's never exercised before, the idea of exercising every day is just alien. And
Mm-mm.
exercising a couple times. If you're just an avid gamer, not gaming for a week and doing something else for a week is gonna feel so weird to you. Even like if you're used to sleeping at going to bed at 3 a.m. and you're trying to train yourself to go to bed at like 9, 10 p.m. It's gonna feel so alien to you, man. And it's because to form new habits, it requires work. So yeah, I know that's a very long takeaway. I'll do one last, like, very short one sentence wrap up. Basically, if you're in a situation where things aren't going the way you want it to, you have to work out what's going on and you have to put in effort to fix it. You know why? Because if you don't, coronavirus is going to hit and you'll spend your whole time wondering what you could have done instead of fixing the issue at the time. See, a lot
Yep.
of this is what time does. A lot of people are sat at home right now thinking about what they could have done. If they had taken the time to think about it at the time, they could have done all the things that they're now wishing they did.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I guess in a nutshell, it's like you only regret the things you don't do, innit?
Yeah, I want to go KFC, man. It's been a while. Those are the kind of bands I miss, man. I need this. If you're doing a podcast thing, man, you definitely need to get a hold of Squad on this at some point, man.